The events of this story will begin a quarter of a century before its main plot unfolds. Why such an obsessive desire? Does Mr. Pearson really believe that Lady Raina is still alive? An entire town disappeared overnight thanks to an 18-year-old commoner who became a great sorceress. She couldn't survive. The war for supremacy over the continent lasted for 70 long years, and it was the Empire of Vetugenia that emerged victorious, thanks to the magic of the great sorceress Raina Hart. The enemy and the cities belonging to him soared into the sky and disappeared from the face of the earth. However, the heroine of the Empire spent all her life force on this, down to the last drop. One of the knights noticed some movement among the ruins of the enemy city. We need to check it immediately. But this cannot be. It is impossible to penetrate here. All knights, get ready. The clouds of smoke began to clear, and a figure in a cloak appeared at the epicenter of the deadly explosion. So some man, how did he get there and how did he manage to survive when the explosion took the lives of hundreds of people? No human being can survive an explosion of such destructive power. Let the stranger introduce herself immediately. The main character slowly and calmly turned to face the knights. It couldn't be. It was Lady Raina. Here she is, the greatest sorceress of the Vetugenia Empire, and in this incredible beauty and fragility are contained cosmic power and strength. Yeah, damn it, the girl growled. She's not Raina Hart, damn her. She was the most unremarkable reader of novels, and of all the possible options, she got the body of this heroine. A romantic novella called Vetugenia's Garden became the place of the girl's rebirth. The novel has a very classic plot. A wonderful protagonist defeats a tyrant from enemy lands. After triumphantly defeating the main antagonist of the novel, the protagonist unites with the main heroine. Then, in the name of his lovely beloved, the protagonist slaughters the dragon race so that peace and quiet can finally reign in the Empire. A wonderful hero recaptures the lost capital, and everything ends with a happy ending. Dina couldn't even imagine that this novel would be dropped right before the finale, which she had just wasted her hard-earned money on. And why did the author decide to refuse to write the ending, a crisis or personal problems? Is it really possible to do this to readers? However, the girl's questions do not end there, and now she is in the body of a great sorceress named Raina Hart. And here there is a serious inconsistency. The sorceress Raina died before the main plot of the novel began. There are still 14 years before the main storyline begins, where Raina dies by rising into the air and wiping out the capital of Tuntera from the mainland, but Dinah is reborn. And now the great sorceress is alive again. How could she end up in the body of a heroine who doesn't even exist in the main plot of the novel? The only clue is the voice she heard before waking up. It asked her to protect, and who to protect, the main guy or his happiness. The novel was dropped. Now how can I find out what to do? There is only one way out. Do absolutely nothing. Let all events take their course, and Dinah, that is Raina, will simply watch. The girl will not interfere in this world more than necessary. She will simply make sure that everything goes according to the incomplete plot. With the power of the greatest sorceress, she will light this city. This world is ready. She does not hear. And why is Lady Raina screaming at the stars? A few weeks later, the girl had already gotten used to the body of her heroine. One cannot help but say that it is not a beautiful human being. So Raina promised His Imperial Highness to complete her training in basic magic. And once this happens, the sorceress will have to hide in her domain until the beginning of the original story of the novel. Also, to follow the course of events of the original branch, you need to avoid the main characters. In particular, the girl must be wary of the novel's main villain, the bloody Fourth Prince. According to the book's plot, this guy was a real psychopath from the crime news. So this prince is responsible for the true crisis here, which means we need to elude him at any cost. Now he is most likely experiencing his tragic backstory, which will shape him into a crazy villain. Raina felt uneasy, knowing what he would have to go through. How could he just watch it? Wait. Her job is to just sit quietly and not interfere with the events of the plot. She needs to throw away these toxic thoughts. This psychopath still can't get out of the sorceress's head. He was not a villain. He was made that way by unbearable injuries and unimaginable pain. It is these tragic events that will trigger a chain reaction, at the end of which the Fourth Prince will become a bloody madman. And as soon as the girl thought about the poor guy, they immediately met. Well, now it won't be possible to pretend that Raina didn't notice the child's head sticking out while walking past the bushes. The maid asked worriedly if everything was okay, everything was fine. She just thought there was a cat in the bushes. The maid immediately looked around the garden bushes with fear, as if she had her face on them. Milady Hart had better not go there, and that's what that means. This is just another palace complex of the Emperor, that's all true, but the Empress doesn't like it when someone appears in this part. If Lady Raina is connected to this place, it will bring the wrath of the ruler upon her. The maid is worried, that is why she crossed the line of what is permitted. The girl doesn't care at all about the maid's words, that's what it is. And apparently, only the sorceress sees this thing. It's a system window, we figured that out, but why did it appear? The fourth prince's nights were filled with suffering. Every night the palace servants beat the child and spat on him, and the author neglects to treat him, or what? The poor boy couldn't sleep from the pain as soon as his hand rose to write this. What kind of torment is this? How to make a deal with conscience? It can't interfere with the main plot, and therefore spoil the villain. The system window appeared again. The life of the unfortunate child was full of darkness, damn you. And what should Raina do with this information? The damn author is clearly trying to get his own death out of turn. The maid screamed in fear, asking why Milady was growling. She had already apologized for her insolence. It's not about the maid at all. It's time for them to go back. It's time for lunch. The author had stuck so many painful and soul-terrifying events on the poor prince that he had no chance to become different. Anyone here would want to destroy the world around him. What a damn sadist. No matter how much the girl sympathizes with this boy, she should not interfere with the course of events. The fourth prince's only food was moldy bread. What a nasty thing, that was exactly the moment to mention it. The poor child had never tasted warm soup in his life, but this is already personal. Knowing this, Raina also won't eat what these pop-up things are after. Well now, before the girl's eyes, there is only a hungry child in a box who begs to be fed. He is like a homeless kitten. Never mind the damn backstory, the villain has to eat well too, otherwise he won't be able to drench the Empire in blood, and who will be responsible for it then? The main antagonist must receive sufficient amounts of healthy food. It is clear to all of them. Phew, finally the sorceress came up with an excuse for her intervention. What does the mistress do? Where is Milady Hart going so quickly? She hasn't even touched her food yet. She's going to feed the cat. So, a little background, Emperor Vetugenius had 3 wives and 4 children. The second empress was a dancer and led a lonely existence in the palace. She died early, leaving only her beauty as an inheritance to her son. The fourth prince, Kevenriak Heteroan, the main villain, really grew up to be a young man of fantastic beauty. After the death of the second empress, the loving old man in the crown did not get bored for long and ordered that Kevenriak be left to his next wife. And what will the new empress order to do with the fourth heir of his majesty? The ruler pointed her fan at the sleeping boy with disgust. Maybe she could settle him in an empty palace. And so, for the little prince, cruelty and pain quickly became the norm. The poor little boy kept asking one question: why was he always alone? Why do people hate the prince so much? Why do they beat him? Only these mice are kind to him. Here on the page of an old book, the boy found the answer. The fourth heir to the throne finally realized that the whole point is that he is a monster, hated and feared by all people. On the floor of the outbuilding lay Kevenriak's natural answer, because the child could not understand then that he was not guilty of anything, only the people around him were guilty. On the pages of the fairy tale book, a powerful monster was crying, and he looked so much like a boy. All monsters kill people, which means that sooner or later the prince will kill everyone in the imperial palace. But then one day she appeared. Viscountess Hart had already thought over the proposal. The greatest sorceress and heroine of the empire received the status of viscountess for her military services. The gentleman's offer is very mutually beneficial. What a disgusting thing. Let him shut up already. Raina wiped the lips from the man's face with a snap of her fingers. The fourth prince was beside himself with delight. It was so funny, so the lady sealed her mouth with magic. What more talk about marriage? At least invite her for coffee first. And anyway, the girl is only 18 years old. The curious boy stuck his head out to get a better look at the funny sorceress. This girl is like a beautiful purple flower that you want to see again. The next day the prince saw Raina banging her head on the ground. Why the hell did the author put her there? A day later, the purple flower bloomed again in the meadow. What does this world need from a girl? Can just take advantage of the position and money of his heroine and live to the fullest. In general, this dimension is quite nice. Everything is so beautiful here, and these outfits, Raina goes crazy about them. There was a rustling sound in the bushes. The girl immediately turned around at the noise. The little villain barely managed to hide. What is Viscountess Hart looking at? It seemed like there was someone living in the bushes. Maybe it was a cat. No one noticed the boy, which means we can continue to observe. The girl collected everything she could find in the kitchen into a basket and plopped down on the grass. The moldy bread was harder than stone, and the poor child had to rub it against the wall to chew even a few crumbs. Yes, she already understood. Stop pressuring. What a delicious sandwich Raina is eating now, and there is no one to share it with. We must not forget that this is not an ordinary child. This is a future maniac and psychopath. It is only now that the fourth prince looks like a wild and hungry kitten in the bushes. Oh, how painful. The Viscountess has already eaten her fill, and there is still so much food. The cook said that it is absolutely necessary to eat everything. It is said that a fairy lives here who grants wishes, so Raina will leave a basket of food here in the hopes that the fairy will grant her wish and eat all the food. And tomorrow the sorceress will come and check whether the fairy fulfilled her wish, whether the operation was successful. The next day the sorceress returned to the clearing again. The little villain had to eat well. The girl carefully approached yesterday's meadow and opened the picnic basket. There were beautiful flowers inside. How sweet and touching it is. The fourth prince will leave a bouquet instead of the food he ate. How could he bring himself to turn such a charming boy into a psychopath? Viscountess Hart's heart became even heavier. And why did such a sympathetic and bright child have to go through all this? The girl carefully placed the little villain's flowers in the most prominent place in the room. What's going on? I need to pull myself together. There's only a week left, and the sorceress will leave for her domain, but Raina will continue to feed the cat. 5 days later, all the girls' private chambers were filled with lovely bouquets. The little villain never forgot to thank his nurse with a fresh bouquet. As soon as the graceful silhouette with lavender hair disappeared behind the trees, a wary kitten came out into the clearing. Raina hid behind the trunk of a wide oak tree and began to watch the fourth prince. She almost gave herself away. The boy was fantastically charming, even in spite of his terrifying appearance. His whole body was covered in deep wounds. His nails were rubbed raw. There was no living place on his fingers, damn author. The charming villain took out a purple flower from behind his back. Finally, he found a flower so similar to his fairy. Poor prince. 8 years is the age when a child is still carried in arms. The angry sorceress bit her lip and sent the author of this novel to hell. She would not indulge this freak devoid of talent and humanity. The lavender fairy immediately came out of her hiding place and headed straight towards the little villain. The boy did not expect to meet his sorceress face to face and dropped the basket of flowers out of fear. What Raina is doing is one thing to feed a future villain, but another to rewrite his backstory. The poor child immediately covered his face. He asks for forgiveness. It breaks her soul. The prince is used to only being beaten. The lavender fairy came closer to the fourth prince and raised her hand over him. The healing magic was activated. The gloomy eyes stared at the sorceress in amazement, wondering what this lady was doing. Raina couldn't help but stroke the poor child, who didn't know warmth or light, on the top of his head. Well, the girl definitely screwed up. Kevin Riak really does look like a very beautiful and scared kitten of a rare breed. That's why they couldn't stuff the girl into the body of the rebellious crown prince. Why did she need all these tragedies? Let the boy take this. There is a strong medicine inside. Raina will not be able to heal him with her magic all the time. The little villain must use these pills and ointments again if his wounds and bruises become painful. The moon rose over the imperial palace and bright stars appeared in the sky. The fourth prince lay down in the abandoned and cold castle for the first time in his life with a smile on his face, holding the fairy's chest in his hands. The lavender sorceress did not hit the boy or spit on him. On the contrary, she helped Kevin Riak. The child's eyes immediately lit up, and a completely new and warm feeling spread through his body. Then the door of the cold room creaked, and the familiar steps that frightened the boy so much every night were heard. There was a crowd of cruel degenerates standing behind the door, because the prince had not yet gone to bed. What was that he had there? Morning came quickly in the empire. The sorceress was already on her feet and hurrying to the meeting. A more effective medicine has appeared than what Sir offered to Milady Hart earlier. The imperial physician is so kind. If Viscountess Rain needs it, the man will prepare it. That would be wonderful. But wouldn't magic be more effective in that case? The sorceress won't be able to use it constantly, and the patient doesn't know how to use magic. Although in reality, the little villain will become the most skilled and powerful magician, surpassing even Raina Hart. However, there are still a few years left before that, and for now the sweet little boy needs to somehow take care of himself. As soon as Raina thought about that child, a smile immediately appeared on her face. The little prince was really so cute. The doctor looked at Viscountess Hart in amazement, wondering why my lady was smiling now. It's about time. The person who gets this medicine must be really dear to Mrs. Hart. Every day it became easier and more pleasant for the sorceress to take care of the little villain. Raina had really taken a liking to the boy. It would be better to keep the new medicine a secret. And here it is, the abandoned complex in the imperial palace where the poor child was hidden. The cold and damp walls are covered with mold and cobwebs, and rats and cockroaches run across the floor. The perfect place to form a future psychopath, a killer, poor baby. And what are those sounds? What a dirty and disgusting boy. He is like a garbage rat. How can a prince not be ashamed to be like that? What the hell is this? The sorceress hears the splash of water and several nasty, creaky voices. The little scoundrel only dishonors the imperial blood. He deserves all this, doesn't he? After all, His Majesty prefers ice water, doesn't he? Let him take a good dip and wash away this shame. After all, for the great imperial blood, this is a mere trifle. Eternal glory to the brilliant Heterovan family. These degenerates just got in line for their own death. Each of them will sincerely regret what they did. For this child, cruelty and pain were faithful companions, so that's how this damn writer played out the villain's backstory. And who do you have to be to allow such inhumanity to happen? They are all finished. It's a pity that right now in these stinking, rotten ruins the author herself is not here. He would quickly rewrite the plot and give the baby a happy ending and the imperial throne. The doors of the room swung open, and the rotten and pathetic offspring immediately began to hiss at the uninvited guest. The poor child was shaking from the cold. His skin had turned pale. The numerous wounds against it became more noticeable. Vile degenerates. Each of these cowardly freaks who dared to hurt a child will answer for what they did. There was so much fear and despair in the eyes of the fourth prince that Raina was ready to shield him with her body from all suffering and hardships. What is this lady doing here? Not everyone can enter an abandoned castle. Has this stupid girl gone blind or stopped feeling fear? These rotten spawn will be held responsible for every wound on this child's body. What the... The entire vile trinity soared into the air. The magic whip began to squeeze their necks. The freaks began to beg for mercy and fear. They did not deserve it. Even if these brats spend the rest of their lives atoning for their guilt before the prince, it will not be enough. The boy immediately called out his fairy by name, which means the prince knows her heroine previously. This child was just a character in this story. But everything has changed. Now in front of Raina there is a defenseless 8-year-old child who knows nothing but cruelty and fear. Poor boy who thought that the bullying from these scumbags was absolutely deserved and the norm. Why is the Lavender Fairy crying because she feels so sorry for the baby? He doesn't deserve all this. The ending of the novel is a happy ending for the main characters. Raina will save them, but they will not be the only ones who will be happy. The girl will do absolutely everything to ensure that this bright and fantastic child gets his well-deserved happy ending. The sorceress will make sure that the prince is familiar with happiness and love, humanity and warmth, care and devotion. And here is the annoying old man in the crown, because of whom the life of his fourth son was controlled by a greedy and rotten woman. Hynos Heteroan, the reigning emperor of Vetugenia, means Viscountess Hart is still thinking about the reward. His Highness was informed of Milady's desire to meet him in person, so he thought of discussing a reward for her military services. The heroine placed her cup on the saucer with a loud bang, cutting off the ruler's endless stream of words. There were 2 empires on the Tang continent. 70 years ago, 2 suns started a war, trying to swallow each other. As a result, only 1 sun remained in the sky, illuminating the Tang continent with its light. Hundreds of people lost their lives and futures so that one degenerate could carry out his unhealthy whim. If only he could be turned into dirt in the most crowded square and at the same time retain all his tactility, the emperor must keep this talent close by. Considering his position, the ruler wishes to keep the lady in the palace under the pretext of training. Let the sorceress train the palace magicians. Why should Milady return to her lands? Raina wants to take on the training of the fourth prince. This will be her reward. What? The face of the vile ruler immediately changed. In fact, he doesn't care about his son, but the most powerful magician on the continent should be his alone. Raina's personal maid reported to the ruler that her mistress was furious upon learning of the treatment of the fourth heir to the throne. His Highness had already forgotten about the child born from a fleeting infatuation with beauty. And this child survived and attracted the attention of Raina Hart herself. An interesting scenario. They say that several servants disappeared last night. Rats are not inclined to loyalty, are they? The servants really do tend to run away. No one will be bored, right? However, there is something strange about this escape. All three left their things in place, as if they were not going to go anywhere. So his lordship assumed that the greatest sorceress of the empire killed these scum, not that he was against it. The old man decided to provoke the one who could take his head off with one snap of her fingers. No, it was just a joke. That's wonderful. Then there's no point in changing the subject, but perhaps the ruler considers Milady Hart unworthy of teaching the fourth prince. What nonsense. Raina Hart has the blood of the greatest white dragon in her veins. It's a good thing no one else heard these words. This girl can destroy an entire village with one blink of her eyelashes. After the death of the sorceress's mentor, only she and the emperor know about Raina's blood secret, because the old man guesses who the extra link is here. Dragons are considered the highest race among all. There are few of them, so they rarely leave their nests. Meeting them is an event that happens once every few centuries. This girl is a dragon quadroon, meaning she is a carrier of its blood. Her race was considered a myth before her appearance. So dragon blood and gloomy eyes were the most valuable things in this world. The emperor wants to take this treasure to his palace. The old man decided to keep his son hostage or something. Why offer a reward if you are not going to give it back? Her poor, scared kitten, Raina, will send everyone to death out of turn for him. So Viscountess Hart knows what is in front of her. It was given to the ruler by the mentor of the carrier of the dragon gene. A poisonous smile appeared on the face of the vile degenerate. This is a way to control the heiress of the white dragon. This is a potion of submission, that damned brat. Let my lady drink it and swear eternal loyalty to her emperor. And then the ruler will give the fourth prince, or any other of his sons, to the carrier of the dragon's blood. What a damn degenerate. He could just cut off the greedy old man's head and run away with the little villain. The Heteroan rebellion began. Ka was the first. After Benriach beheaded the emperor. The heiress of the dragon's blood will not drink the potion of obedience. Her will not be in the hands of others. Meanwhile, the little villain's attention was drawn to the flowers he had given him. The boy was delighted, which meant the lavender fairy hadn't thrown them out. Each bouquet was in a beautiful vase. The charming prince was afraid that the monster's touch would cause the beautiful flowers to wither, so he wrapped his hand in cloth. Will the fourth prince be able to give his fairy new flowers next year? These flowers are so beautiful and fragrant, you just want to touch their velvety petals. The boy immediately pulled his hand away from the bouquet. Kevenriach must not spoil the lavender fairy's flowers. If the monster spoils the flowers, the sorceress will certainly be upset. Then quick steps were heard in the corridor. They were approaching the room. The fourth prince immediately became alert and began to listen to the sounds in the corridor. The boy used to be so afraid of these sounds in the night, but now he is waiting for his lavender fairy to return. Why did the sorceress stop and not go inside? Maybe the fairy can't open the door. Perhaps all the fairy's powers go into their magic, so they are not enough to open the door. But it's okay. The fourth heir to the throne will help the sorceress cope with this. Kevenriach is already here. He will open the door now. The fairy just needs to wait a little to see who it is. There was a whole crowd of court servants standing outside the doors. They were happy to greet His Majesty the Prince. The Emperor sent servants here to take care of the little master. Crowds of servants milled about the abandoned castle, bringing it into proper condition. What is going on here? What are these people doing to the boy's home? His lordship also ordered the staff to take care of the fourth prince's appearance. The little gentleman has nothing to fear at all. Those freaks told Kevenriach the same thing. Let the young prince try the water first. Is it too hot for him? The prince cautiously dipped his big toe into the bath, after which the boy jumped up and hissed. What was going on? Was the water too hot? The little villain immediately began to run away. Where is His Majesty running off to? And what about his bath? The maids tried to catch the fugitive, but all attempts were in vain. How scary. Everything is not right here. Here, the frightened child flew at full speed into the hem of the sorceress's dress. Let the baby be careful in the future. You can't run on the tiles with wet feet. It can be dangerous. There were wet footprints of the prince's little feet everywhere, and the maids were trying to catch their breath. Raina stroked the boy's head, which meant the baby had just taken a bath. Maybe he wanted to have dinner with her. The adorable child began to shake his head. How cute, he really is, just like a kitten. The fourth prince happily ran to get dressed. He was going to dinner with the lavender fairy. In 12 years, this most beautiful child in the world will die. Raina must not allow this. What nonsense is Milady Hart talking about? The emperor may not believe her. Raina doesn't care, but she knows when and how the ruler will die. And the old man will not like his death at all. How dare Raina Hart start a regicide? It will not be her, unfortunately. The ruler knows about the dragon heiress's gift of foresight. Raina saw that day and will protect his highness, although in reality she will not do this. It is only a lever of pressure. The Viscountess asks for the fourth prince in exchange for the emperor's life. Yeah, that's quite a good offer for someone who wants to live. There was no point in using the child as blackmail. The old man himself is to blame. The attitude towards the ruler's fourth son should be the same as towards his other heirs. If Kevin Riak doesn't become a hunted psychopath, then he won't take his old man's head, although Raina doesn't care at all. Judging by the speed with which the emperor sent servants to the boy, the part about death puzzled him greatly. Well, look at how clean everything is. Everything is sparkling and shining. I wish it were like that right away. However, you need to be ready to take a hit. This old man does not like to remain in debt and lose control of the situation. And here is the fourth prince. The boy stretched into a smile. How handsome he is at Raina's. Who is so handsome here? Who is so sweet here? Who is the most charming boy in the world? How is it that the Lavender Fairy doesn't recognize Kevin Riak? It's him, the fourth prince. The boy will immediately go and roll in the mud again so that the sorceress can recognize him. What nonsense! How can a girl not recognize her little friend? He just became even more beautiful, if that is even possible. The heir to the throne's cheeks immediately turned red. How funny he was, how embarrassed. Now it was time to begin their long-awaited meal. Kevin Riak was probably hungry. The girl carefully cut a steak for the child, let the prince use his fork to take the food. The boy took good aim and launched his fork into the piece of meat like a harpoon. What a delight! Now Raina can eat peacefully for the first time in a long time. What the hell? The child next to the sorceress once ate rice balls mixed with sand. The fourth prince had to steal crumbs from the imperial pigeons. What the hell now? What's wrong? Now this kid is gobbling up steak. Damn notifications, these things are so annoying and I can't stop them. A whisper went through the large audience. Something was bothering Milady Hart. I need to pull myself together and continue, because Raina is now teaching young magicians. Everything is fine. The lecture continues. In front of the boy lay a dusty potato. This is what Tieran's portion of food looked like today. Tieran Fargan, the main male character of Vetugenia's Garden and the last prince of the Tunter Empire. More precisely, the only surviving carrier of royal blood on Earth, because the greatest sorceress erased his kingdom with one snap of her fingers. However, Raina did not destroy an entire state for no reason. While two powerful empires fought for dominance over the continent, a girl had a vision. Beneath the capital of the Tunter Empire, there was a place unknown to humans where great dragons and other creatures lived. According to her vision, when the scarlet dragon awakens, it will rise into the sky and destroy the world. Then the great sorceress stopped time and raised the earth into the sky. However, the cost was too great, so Raina died tragically and remained only in the history of the empire. And with the fall of the capital, the entire empire of Tieran fell. No one managed to escape except the blood heir to the throne. This means that the main character also had a difficult and tragic childhood. The author was not liked in childhood, and his drawings were not praised. What is his problem? So this damn window wants the girl to get involved in this drama too. Raina has already interfered with the fate of Kevin Riak. If she also starts changing the fate of the main character, then this whole world will turn into chaos. Damn writer, he wrote so much depressive horror, and the girl has to sort it all out. The teacher is on fire again. How scary. It's a good thing the Tuntarian imperial family disappeared into history. If they had survived, it would have been a complete disgrace, because the survivors of Tunter would have faced only humiliating slavery. Enough already with this chatter about the fallen empire. All that's left of it is dust, just like the wallet of a chatty friend. Nothing of the sort. He will now get even and leave here with a solid sum. His Highness the Prince must flee. He will not go without a nanny. The heir must. Only he remains from the imperial family. Tieran is their last hope. A month has passed since the collapse of the empire, and the little prince, through stupidity, fell into the hands of slave traders. However, the heir to the fallen empire never forgot who he was, and his empire would rise from the ashes. Outside, a familiar voice called out to the two men a new customer had arrived, and they needed to show him the goods. Now everything will be, let the guest go straight ahead and turn right. They will show him the best slaves. From under the hood of the robe, dragon eyes flashed. Let my lady choose any of them. Without thinking twice, the great sorceress pointed her finger at the distant dungeon. She would take him. This one is still very young, so he may not use magic correctly. On the other hand, if a young man is happy, he will serve longer. Let this scum better not talk. One minute, the man will prepare the goods for sale. The prison bars immediately creaked. Let the kid not twitch, it's time for him to earn his keep. The heir to the fallen empire began to kick. Now quickly remove your hands, you vile degenerates. Let the little guy lie like this, he needs to be branded. It will all be over soon. The slave trader had a red-hot instrument in his hands. The protagonist's eyes immediately lit up. Even as a child, there was so much power in his eyes. It was simply incredible. Everyone stand. Doesn't the mistress want to brand the boy as a slave? Raina will take him and put the family seal on him. The merchants of living souls reluctantly looked at each other and nodded, any whim of the client. Let my lady take the boy, and with him the keys to his handcuffs. If only they could release all these unfortunate people and leave them alone with these freaks, that would be a spectacle. And so the great sorceress freed the main character from slavery, and she just wanted to do nothing and not interfere anywhere, but something went wrong. The frightened child began to squint. The sun blinded his eyes out of habit. How many days had he spent in prison? However, the main character did not show it. He met his fate with all possible courage. Let the boy take good care of himself and not fall into the hands of these freaks again. Raina freed the protagonist's hands. What the hell? What is this lady doing? Isn't it clear that Prince Tieran is free now? The girl put a certificate in the boy's bag, confirming his citizenship of the Vetugenian Empire. But how could the lady predict everything? The boy knows how to use shadow magic, doesn't he? The little warrior clenched his sword fiercely, meaning the lady was asking him to accept the identity of those who killed his family. Raina hugged the prince. He needed to survive. With this ID, the slavers wouldn't be able to capture Tiernan, and he would be able to get a job. Here, the main character bared his teeth and pushed his savior away from himself. Let this woman take her hands off the prince. The sole heir to the Tuntera Empire has no need of anything like that, and will not pretend to be his enemies. What the hell kind of certificate from those who drenched his native country in blood, who took the lives of hundreds of people? And this girl thought that the last prince would accept the help of the enemy, even if Tiernan did not consider it help. Let the boy think that he simply found this sword here. Let him simply survive. Who the hell is she to say such a thing to the heir? A frightening roar came from under the hood. Her inner dragon was losing patience. He had no choice. The prince could give up, or he could survive for the sake of his empire and family. The boy needs to meet someone in a couple of years, so now he has to survive. From now on, the little prince is free to live as he wants. Now he is free. But who is she? The sorceress immediately disappeared. This strange girl is definitely a sorceress. That's all that's clear here. But how does this lady even know about the future? Who she is and why she needs to do all this? The little protagonist bit his lip, but no matter, now he has a chance to write his own history and the history of his empire. And the last prince will definitely find this sorceress someday. Now the heir to the fallen empire must focus on his path and not deviate from it under any circumstances. This is how the main character received the key to his freedom from the mysterious stranger with dragon eyes. This child will survive, yes, he is the main character after all. Raina even cast a tracking spell on the ID. If the prince finds out that the sorceress is Raina herself, he will certainly rush to kill her, because she destroyed the empire and its inhabitants. However, these are only problems for her future for now. Now she has something to focus on. The greatest sorceress activated the magical flow and directed it towards the slave house. What the hell? Everyone is running away. How could this happen? We need to catch the goods immediately. The magical currents knocked the vile merchants off their feet, blocked their view, and gave all the slaves a chance to escape. Today the girl is in confusion, so she will not rip off the skin from this garbage. It would be great to have dinner now. All these showdowns with local freaks take so much strength and energy. Meanwhile, the little villain sat meekly on the steps of the stairs, waiting for his lavender fairy. As soon as a cool wind blew through the castle, the boy smiled. Raina is here. The sorceress returned. The baby immediately jumped up from his place. Raina was also very happy to see the boy. However, the prince, who did not know kind words and warmth, froze in a stupor in front of the viscountess, wondering what was going on. So, His Highness doesn't know what Raina wants to say. That's okay, it's completely natural. The fourth prince began to carefully think about the words he wanted to say. He was such a cutie. However, the boy doubted that what he said would be correct, so he glanced at the maid. The little villain repeated the maid's bow. The prince is glad to welcome Viscountess Hart. Here it is. The kid did great, but they don't need to be formal, they can just say hello. Raina is happy to be returning to the place where little Kevinriak is located. The baby is happy to see the lavender fairy. The sorceress is now where the prince is, and it is so great. This little boy already occupies a special place in the soul of the sorceress. Who would have thought? And this cute kitten could flood the empire with blood and tears in a few years. But Raina will not let this happen, and the prince wants to become her student. The girl greedily pounced on her food. She needed to have time to sweep it all up before those damn notifications appeared. However, the little villain did not touch his dinner, which is why the fairy offered him to become her student. Doesn't the sorceress know that Kevin is a monster? She should definitely know that. What if the lavender fairy doesn't know that he's a monster? And so the kid thought about the sorceress's offer. Kevin doesn't want to lie to Raina and hide from her that he is a monster, but he so wants to become her student. The boy lowered his head, which meant that this was his consent. This was wonderful news. Raina was already looking forward to their classes. What a relief the Emperor summoned the dragon heiress right at dawn. Then Raina thought that something terrible had happened. But no, so the Viscountess is obliged to fulfill her duty as the fourth prince's tutor to his father, that is, the Emperor himself. That is, Kevin became a replacement for the potion of subordination. And long ago this rotten old man remembered how many sons he had, what a disgusting type he was. It's good that the kid didn't object. By the way, the main character has also stopped going hungry lately. This means that now, until the beginning of the original story, the girl can calmly rest in her own domain. Raina will soon be heading to Hebei, where she has a small estate in the countryside. Maybe the prince wants to go there with her. The little villain's face immediately turned pale, and it seemed as if a serious confrontation was currently taking place inside this child. A few days later, the great sorceress's crew set off for the Hebei domain as agreed. The countryside warmly welcomed the new guests. Cute, fluffy creatures were frolicking everywhere, and greenery was visible. The charming little boy was immediately delighted with what he saw. Raina saw it. A small lump with a fluffy tail immediately swallowed the nut whole. How happy this little one is. The girl did the right thing by choosing a carriage instead of teleportation magic. The day before, and the lavender fairy is afraid of monsters. What strange questions. Of course, the greatest sorceress of the continent is not afraid of monsters, because she is stronger than them. And this charming fellow, due to the fault of one vile writer, considers himself a monster. If only he too could be reborn here, for example, as pigeon droppings on the asphalt. One of the knights stopped the carriage. Today they will set up camp here. The nearest village is still half a day's journey away. It's time to prepare for the night. Let the knights light a fire and prepare the necessary supplies. The sorceress's accompanying detachment quickly completed its task. The camp was ready in literally an instant. Kevin had received so many new impressions today that he was very tired. Raina decided to put him to bed early. Today, for the first time in his life, the fourth prince left the walls of his abandoned palace. Looking at the baby snoring comfortably, the girl involuntarily gaped. She also needed to take a nap. The road awaited her again tomorrow. The sorceress settled closer to the boy when he was happy. Her soul felt so warm and calm. Then a piercing cry was heard. Everyone leave the camp immediately. There is an ambush. Everyone take up positions. What the hell? What's going on here? The girl immediately came out of her tent. Fire was blazing everywhere. The smell of burning immediately made the heroine's lungs burn. Almost nothing was visible. The accompanying knight ordered his mistress to take cover immediately. They were trapped. The sorceress will deal with these suicide bombers later, but now she needs to save the little prince. The kid needs to wake up quickly. Their camp was attacked by some cretins. Wait, where is Kevin? The pupils of the dragon heiress changed to vertical. A terrifying roar was heard in her voice where her little villain was. Meanwhile, in the forest thicket, 2 unknown mercenaries ran towards the canyon. They were ordered to deliver the boy straight there. There was still a little left. All the knights remained to defend the camp. They had nothing to fear. The fourth heir has such a tragic fate. He only just felt like a human being, and very soon he will follow his mother. This psycho ordered to kill absolutely everyone except Raina Hart. But is it worth serving such a spawn? If it pays well? Then yes. If the Emperor's precious sorceress were to die, he would personally lead the investigation, which is why his current wife gave such an order. The greatest sorceress is currently sleeping under the influence of a sleeping pill, so everything is going according to plan. Well, that's it. The mercenaries succeeded. The Empress will reward them. It's too early to relax. The mercenaries arrived at the right point. From here they went to the capital along the old road. Here a huge boulder fell between the 2 degenerates. Both of them squealed in unison. What the? This is a small stone, just a little more and they both would have been crushed. Could such a huge thing have fallen on its own? Then the second cobblestone hit the thief on the head. Damn, my friend is still alive there. A third boulder fell next to the second mercenary. What the hell is this? It will be good, just let this stop. The mercenaries struggled to their feet and found themselves surrounded by huge rocky boulders. Well, what the hell was that anyway? Here are the death row inmates who will be carried out of here in sacks. No, not that. That can't be. The mercenaries raised their heads up. Damn it, it's Raina herself. These cretins got it right. They shouldn't have cut in ahead of their turn to die. Here the sorceress's attention was drawn to the bag. Just let them dare to say that there is a child inside. The dragon's eyes flashed with flame. The mercenaries immediately pressed themselves to the ground. They couldn't escape. What should they do? This death machine is capable of blowing up a state with one flick of its fingers. Raina Heart is a death sentence. Raina Heart is an opponent that no one can defeat, the Emperor's strongest trump card. It doesn't matter whether they reveal their employer or not, they won't get out of here alive. The second mercenary thought the same thing and plunged the blade of the dagger into his chest, and still warm blood flowed down his hands. It's cowardly and sloppy, and there will be other similar ways to resolve the situation. The surviving scoundrel has no choice but to repeat the fate of his accomplice. The mission has failed. It is better to leave this life by one's own efforts than to experience the wrath of the greatest sorceress. However, here the mercenary's hands froze in place. What the hell, he can't even move. Is he paralyzed or something? Is this even possible? Can this witch really do this? Does her power even know its limits? As soon as the sorceress saw the poor child in the bag, she immediately rushed towards him. What degenerates! The fourth prince was fast asleep. It would be great if he didn't remember this whole nightmare. Of course, Kevin Riak is the main villain of the novel, which means he is not so easy to kill. Then a notification appeared in the window that the Empress was behind these freaks, which meant that this rottenness saw a threat in the child. It's just a legacy, in all likelihood, of what a cowardly and vile wretch you have to be to kill a defenseless child. The great sorceress's knights hurried to her. Everything was fine with the lady. Apparently, only 3 of the entire detachment of accompanying guards remained. Let the knight take care of his highness for a while and keep an eye on the boy. Only this knight was devoted to Raina until the very end. He mourned her for 14 years. He is the only one who can be completely trusted. And why is the 4th heir to the throne sleeping so soundly? Apparently it's a sleeping pill. And where is Milady Heart going? The sorceress does not like to remain in debt, so she will be away for a short time. Deep night, a passionless moon, an icy pouring rain, a terrifying screech was heard in the Empress's castle. There was blood everywhere, and Her Majesty's servants and guards lay on the floor, writhing in pain. In the epicenter of the chilling horror sat the murderer. The guilty woman's hands trembled. Her body was seized by animal fear. The lady-in-waiting pulled her Empress up and suggested that she run away immediately. This idiot doesn't understand. You can't run away from that damn Raina Heart. The most powerful and dangerous sorceress approached with an inexorable sentence. She dragged the mercenary behind her. Raina disgustedly threw her contractor at the feet of the customer. The Empress smelled of rot. Her Highness has no idea who this person is. She is as much trash as this scum. Viscountess Hart should show respect. She is talking to the Empress. Let Priscilla shut up right now and not provoke Raina. The dragon has no master. He is the most powerful and strong creature on the planet. The greatest sorceress made a couple of waves of her hand and drew a magical mark in the air. The mercenary's body bent unnaturally and rose into the air. What was happening? The one who ordered the mercenaries to kill the 4th heir to the throne was the Empress. This is a blatant lie. Viscountess Hart must not trust this scoundrel. They want to set up the Empress. And why does all the imperial rabble despise an innocent and defenseless child so much simply for the fact of his existence? The poor kid left his horrible home without ever receiving an apology, and they even sent killers after him. You can't expect remorse or regret from such rot, and even that will never be enough. Why would the Empress kill the 4th prince? He is like her own son. Yes, Her Highness is right. It's all a setup. The heroine of the Empire must believe her ruler. She has nothing to do with it and never wished harm to this child. Even if that rotten old woman doesn't even dare to speak the prince's name, this child is now under the strongest protection of all. The great sorceress will not blame this woman today, but Raina does not forget anything. Everyone knows this. And if these worthless people don't want the sorceress to return, then they will make the right choice. After which the heroine disappeared into the teleportation portal. Holy shit, they survived. They're both still alive after their encounter with Raina Hart. Meanwhile, the little villain finally began to awaken from his deep sleep. The 4th prince jumped up from his bed in fright and began to breathe heavily. Taking a deep breath, exhaling, the boy managed to regain his breath and began to look around. Wait, Where is this child? The last time Kevinriak fell asleep was in a tent in a camp set up in a clearing. His Highness had already woken up. As soon as the child saw his fairy, he immediately blossomed. What a charmer! And where are they now? It's so beautiful here. The prince probably needs to go wash up and change his clothes. Here the girl pushed the child back onto the pillow. They had nowhere to rush. They could enjoy their sleep a little longer. They had a hard journey. They need to regain their strength. They are now in Hebei, in the domain of the sorceress. Sleeping longer and not getting up to the alarm clock, what could be better? The astonished baby frowned and puffed out his cheeks, letting Kevinriak continue to sleep. Okay, the charming boy curled up comfortably next to the heroine. How Kevinriak loves the Lavender Fairy. She is the best, he always knew it. And here are the territorial possessions of the greatest sorceress of the Empire. Over there is the main estate of Milady Hart. Very modest for the heroine of the Empire, the knights expected to see something more pompous. Although their mistress was never known for her vanity or love of luxury, this estate had to suit her. Well, everything here can be restored, and a new and luxurious estate can be built. And Hebei is really a quiet place, as they say. It is not called quiet, but abandoned. Did the Hebei lands fall into decline while Viscountess Hart was protecting her empire? Let the kid not talk nonsense. Why the slap right away? When Viscountess Raina wakes up, I'll have to ask her a question. What brought the knights here? The residents learned about the arrival of Viscountess Hart. It's somehow creepy here. What's going on here? Lady Raina has woken up, and there's a man here asking about my lady's return. As soon as the old man saw the greatest sorceress, he threw aside the brave warrior and rushed to her. What kind of device is this? The prince immediately clung to the fairy in fear the boy had nothing to worry about. The Hebei resident was begging him to save his people. There is so much despair in this stranger's voice, but from what or who does this poor fellow need to be saved? Well, the heroine thought that she could finally rest with the 4 princes in her domain. But how wrong the girl was. The Hebei territory is in total decline. So much needs to be resolved. All the local residents' livestock died, there was no harvest, and the soil was completely depleted. It's good that the great sorceress has returned to Hebei, but Raina is no longer so sure about it. We should probably count how many times a day the little villain laughs, and how many times Milady Hart listens to the man. This means that the war has caused serious damage to their village, so the residents beg the sorceress to personally inspect the lands of Hebei. That is, how is it personal? Here the local residents stared at their mistress in bewilderment. After all, this is her territory and her area of responsibility. Every nobleman is obliged to take care of his lands and subjects. Is the great sorceress an exception? The boy grinned viciously as expected. The great Raina was nothing more than a cold-blooded warrior. The village has been invaded by troops of the imperial army of Tuntera. Everyone must leave the village immediately. Why didn't their mistress come to save her people? After all, Raina Hart is the strongest on the continent. There is no reason to stay here anymore. Their viscountess has won another battle, so she clearly has no time for commoners. The locals were neglected and were just a burden to this aristocrat. Here the little villain's dark eyes flashed like steel. He immediately felt a threat. Over so many years he had learned to recognize hatred well. The 4th prince, like a wild predator, rushed at the village boy and knocked him to the floor. What the? This little guy is the enemy of the Lavender Fairy. Who is this beast? What a terrifying aura. The sorceress lifted the angry kitten into the air. This boy was not their enemy at all. That is, even though he is not an enemy, Kevinriak is absolutely sure that this brat is angry at the sorceress. Ren is okay. It seems the boy is 5 minutes closer to his death. Raina was never a soft-hearted ruler, but she never abandoned her lands. The greatest sorceress told that greedy old man to send knights to his lands for protection while she was at war. So the imperial knights never got here, and while Raina was giving her life for the empire, this degenerate broke his word. So without knowing the full backstory, it's only fair that the locals are angry at the one who was supposed to protect them. Well, it looks like the trip won't be easy. Let the residents show us their territories. The Viscountess's subjects wanted Raina to personally assess the damage and influence it. Seriously, the residents immediately beamed with delight, and Ren stared at the aristocrat with disbelief. The great sorceress walked through the destroyed village and began to restore houses, after which Raina built a new bridge over the local river and filled the dried-up trees with new life force. The inhabitants rejoiced. Locals began to flock to the Viscountess's knights from all over to give their savior modest gifts. Let the brave guards take the bread, let them pass the fruit to their mistress, and this pie, yes, their lady is very popular. We need to check with the vice captain what else needs to be fixed. The second knight will look after Lady Hart and the boy for now. The knights did not take horses or carriages with them. It would be hard for the baby. Meanwhile, the novel's main villain kept his eyes on his lavender fairy, Raina. Simply incredible. The sorceress literally restored the destroyed village in an hour and was able to breathe life into it again. With the help of her magic, Raina helps people. They praise and love her. Kevin Ryaku will never become like the sorceress. Because a monster can only destroy, not create. Why is the young prince so sad? Maybe the cart is not comfortable. The boy watches Milady Hart with such interest. Her magic is truly fantastic. They say there are many wizards in the imperial palace, but none can compare to their mistress. So the kid completely ignored Kian, but he will not give up. They will definitely become friends. His Highness is so lucky to have the greatest sorceress as a teacher. So the baby will study magic under the supervision of Milady Hart. The fourth prince immediately turned around. How is it to learn magic? But Raina Hart is a great sorceress, and the prince is her student. That is, the baby did not even think about it. But a monster can't be taught magic. Ryak immediately covered his mouth with his hands. Just so the fairy wouldn't hear this, she shouldn't know. If His Highness gives up magic, then Lady Raina will be very upset, maybe even cry. That is, the Lavender Fairy will be upset because the heir to the throne does not want to learn magic. There was one case before the mercenaries' attack, then some cretins got it pretty good. My lady took that boy out of pity. What these two just said, the guards immediately jumped up. Her Ryak is the brightest and most beautiful person in the world. Despite his young age, he has so much strength and courage. The only thing that can cause pity here is the ignorance of these two, and the boy only causes admiration, by the way. The fourth prince will become a great wizard in the future. So it would be better for these two not to catch his eye in the future. That's exactly what Mrs. Raina said. And if the greatest sorceress believes in the baby, then he should do it too. Well, from all this stress, the girl clearly overdid it, and it seems she dislocated her shoulder. Here the little prince rushed to hug his fairy. What came over the baby? Everything is fine. The gloomy eyes were filled with warmth and light. What is this? Raina should already be worried. It's all about magic. And what about it? The prince really likes magic. It can change so many things. Magic helps people and makes them happier. The fourth heir to the throne also wants to study it. Well, finally, the great sorceress is very happy to hear this, because this is the right choice. Magic is in Ryak's blood. So Raina will be happy to teach the baby everything she knows. They will have a lot of new and exciting things waiting for them. How tired the heroine is today. Even the greatest magician has a limited amount of mana. The little prince is happy to welcome the fairy home. How charming he is. If he and His Highness entered the house together, there was no need to greet Raina, although it was very nice. The butler is pleased to welcome his mistress and the young prince. The Viscountess has worked hard today. The sorceress left only 6 servants in her estate, only them she could trust, and she doesn't like crowds. The knights received a message that they needed to remain in the lands of Hebei and wait for orders to return. And there are 3 more imperial knights, making a total of 11 people in the house, including Raina and Ryak. What would you gentlemen like to eat for dinner today? Raina wants meat, and little Ryak, the prince, loves meat, just like Raina. As you wish. If something is needed, let the gentlemen simply pull the rope in their private quarters. It's time to take a break after a hard day at work. Raina will be at her place. Oh, why is the little prince so dirty, as if he built the village with his own hands? Even Raina's beloved cheeks are covered in soot from when this child managed to get dirty. Well, it's okay. The purification magic is activated. I'll need to teach Ryak this spell. Well, what is this? The boy himself wanted to study magic. Why is he doubting again? Poor baby. The Heterovan imperial family completely destroyed this child's self-confidence. Or the fourth prince wants to grow up as a simple aristocrat and command Raina. The boy did not mean this at all. Yes, she knows. In that case, let Ryak study magic and not doubt. It is his nature. He will understand it himself. Has a fairy ever let her little miracle down? No, Raina never did that. In this case, let the child do what his soul desires and do it diligently in order to realize how wonderful he is. And his teacher will rejoice at every new step the prince takes. And it doesn't matter at all whether these are small steps or big ones, only the baby himself is important. Raina will do everything to ensure that this child can cast off her tragic past and find the happiness she deserves. One day, the little villain will have his happy ending, and no one will be able to change it. A month has passed. The main character and the little villain have already settled in the lands of Hebei. So today they will repeat what they learned yesterday. Let Ryak now imagine the image of the flame. As soon as a spark appeared in the prince's thoughts, a fire immediately lit up in his palms. Wow. Yes, this kid already easily uses first circle magic when at his age only theory is available. Little Riak will truly become a great magician, almost as great as she is. Well, the boy's flame is so small compared to the one Raina conjures. The mentor is probably disappointed. Who is the coolest student? Riak is the coolest student, apparently. Such is the potential of the main villain. The butler reported the arrival of the village elder at the estate. It was time to get down to the day's business. The great sorceress made a few light movements with her fingers. Wow, what is Raina doing? This is the first magic of the girl's student. She simply has to preserve it for centuries. The Viscountess will be back very soon, but for now the baby shouldn't get bored. Let him read this book on magic. Let His Majesty read a book at the table and take care of his back from an early age, and the fairy will return soon, Raina for a short time. The girl hasn't even crossed the threshold of this room yet, but she already misses this baby. Let Riak take care of himself and spend his time wisely. Raina will come soon. The mayor led the Viscountess through the main street of the village, grateful for her ladyship's personal visit to their wilderness. It was her duty. The sorceress wanted to make sure personally that the restoration of the village was nearing completion. And what is on the agenda today? These people are refugees. They crossed the mountains together with the returning residents. Therefore, the headman requires personal permission for them to settle in the lands of Hebei. Here the girl's attention was drawn to a girl with red hair and ruby eyes. She was the same age as Kevin Riak. Little Kia, following her father's orders, disguised herself as a man and became an imperial knight, and in the palace she heard stories about the crazy fourth prince. Who are they calling crazy here? Stop, is this really that same Kia? This girl was Riak's right hand when he became a tyrant, a brilliant swordswoman from an impoverished noble family. But as a girl, Kia could not achieve recognition until she entered the knighthood under the patronage of her father, where she met the villain in an abandoned palace. Intrigued by the prince, who, contrary to rumors, turned out to be a great magician and a brilliant strategist, she began to follow him. As a result, Kia became the right hand of the main villain of the original plot of the novel. Her character is different from the description according to the plot. Kia was a daring and self-confident hooligan since childhood. Apparently, the journey to Hebei was not easy for the girl. And what is the name of that little girl with red hair? Her name is Kia. As Raina thought, her father died in the war. The orphan is only 9 years old, that is. How did he die, and is this a problem for the Viscountess? This doesn't match the plot she knows. Apparently her intervention is to blame. Kia is the closest ally of her little villain. So, such a turn of events is quite possible, but we should check what is going on with the main characters. It is necessary to minimize deviations from the main plot. There may be serious consequences. Something is bothering Milady. Let these people stay in Hebei. There is more than enough space for everyone, because many houses are empty. But there is one important point. Many children have lost their parents, and it is necessary to build an institution for their care, a shelter. Let the headman prepare the appropriate estimate and hand it over to the butler. It will be done. That's great. The children have nothing to worry about. They will all stay here in the lands of the greatest sorceress. Not quite all. Viscountess Hart will take this girl with her to the residence. Meanwhile, the little villain faithfully awaited the return of his lavender fairy. This time Raina has been in the village for so long, maybe something serious has happened. Again, the baby frowned and waited for the lady to return. He was so cute, and His Highness had already done his homework. Riak has already read the book on magic. Wow! The little ice cube immediately answered Keanu today. They were making such progress, he and the baby were becoming closer, and the knight knew he was good with children. Then footsteps were heard in the garden. Well, judging by the delighted face, Milady Hart was returning. A sorceress appeared from the teleportation window, and here is the mentor, and Riak learned everything. The little prince immediately rushed to meet the girl, which means the kid had already completed all his homework. What a great guy he is, because the book on magic was quite voluminous and complex, and here Riak's expression changed dramatically. And who is this? The red-haired girl looked at the fourth prince with embarrassment. This girl's name is Kia, and from today she will live with them. The sorceress decided to take Kia as her apprentice. Raina's words echoed painfully in the prince's mind. Oh, it looks like their baby has some competition for Milady Hart's attention. That same evening, the entire staff of the Viscountess's residence was looking for the little villain. Where could His Highness be? The butler walked around the entire garden. The prince was not there, and almost all the rooms in the estate were examined. Milady Raina's knights walked around the entire perimeter of the residence from the outside, but they were unable to find the young master. Well, what is this? How could you lose the main villain of the novel? And what went wrong here? In the original story, Rick and Kia trusted each other unconditionally. Maybe they met too early. Or maybe it's because Kia was posing as a boy. They met after Riak made a pact with that creature. That treaty was the key reason why the prince turned into a bloody tyrant. If only the changes in the timeline didn't ruin anything. The prince never showed up, the girl had already been fed, the servants would continue their search, and the lady had to eat. Milady Raina will not eat without the boy, so she will wait for his return. The headman ordered them to behave decently, but why did the greatest sorceress choose Kia as her student? The girl doesn't know how to do anything at all, but the young guest liked something about the food. All the food is delicious, what a relief, because one of the castle children only eats meat because Raina loves it. The butler takes Kia to her room. She can spend time in the castle as she pleases and feel free to ask questions. The girl ate all the dishes on the table with an enviable appetite. She finished her meal. Well, that's wonderful, after which Milady Heart rose from the table, which means the lady was waiting for Kia to finish eating. Let the butler take care of this child. It will be done, and Raina needs to find the prince. Perhaps her ladyship is not as formidable as rumors have it, but won't the lady be having dinner? Of course, Lady Raina will dine, but only in the company of her little companion. This is their tradition. Meanwhile, in the linen closet, the little villain was tormenting himself with terrible inventions. This girl's name is Kia, of course. She is much sweeter and more beautiful than the boy. After all, Riak is so dark, and this girl has hair the color of a rose, and her character is probably as soft as a rose. And what if Raina wants to leave the prince because he is so disgusting compared to the new student? Because he is nondescript, not bright. Since childhood, he was told that Riak is a non-entity, so the baby simply had no choice but to believe it. The great sorceress turns to the wardrobe fairy. She needs her wisdom and help. Raina's favorite student disappeared without a trace this evening. The teacher is so sad and worried about him. The little prince promised to have dinner with his teacher today. Raina was so looking forward to her little boy. But Riak still came to her for dinner, which means the fairy was waiting for him despite the fact that she now has this Kia. Wait a minute. What does it mean that the fourth heir to the throne broke his promise? Raina was so nervous that she couldn't bring herself to eat, but the chef cooked such a delicious steak. And if the beloved student does not return, then the sorceress will never be able to eat again and will lie here hungry every evening. So the sorceress will starve herself. Her stomach rumbles so loudly. Here the child could not stand it and jumped out of the closet right at the fairy. He will not allow it. There was a loud crash, and it seemed like Raina couldn't feel her limbs. The fairy cannot go hungry. She loves food more than anything in the world. She even sang songs to her. That happened. What a relief! The wardrobe fairy found Raina's missing student. If the baby knew how worried the sorceress was about him, Ria shouldn't scare her like that anymore. And why does the fairy call Kevin Riak that? Because it is a nickname for her most precious student. So Raina won't kick the boy out. And what is he even talking about? The girl hasn't even had time to spoil him properly yet. The child's eyes filled with tears. The fairy would definitely abandon him, and Raina couldn't imagine a day without him. It's a big secret, but the baby knows how to keep secrets. Raina told Kia to call her mistress for now, because the girl wanted to hear the word master from Riak first. The charming boy's cheeks immediately turned red. Doesn't he understand how dear he is to her heart? The baby immediately stuck his head into the blanket, like a cat. Riak is so cutely embarrassed. Well, why is Riak hiding there? Let him come out quickly, the prince is too embarrassed for that. The girl giggled and made a few movements with her fingers, magic seeping out of her palm. Then the basket with the little prince flew up into the air. Wow, the master used air magic for this. What a clever girl. And now they both need to restore their strength. They need to eat well. The little villain laughed happily. Raina wants that smile to never leave his face. Then Riak walked past Kia with a businesslike air, as if she wasn't there. The girl hissed at him, and her character is not like a rose's. Yeah, these two have a long way to go. From today on, the girl will practice magic with Raina and the prince. The criterion for distinguishing between wizards is simple: those who have mana and those who don't. The former can create a magic heart next to the real path of magic and training. The magic heart produces and accumulates mana. The potential and training of a wizard directly affects his effectiveness. A large magical heart is capable of managing huge amounts of mana. So the more mana, the stronger the magic. Like the great sorceress Raina, that's right. It's been 2 weeks since Kia appeared. She has a talent for mana management. Thanks to little Ryaku, there is a spirit of competition between the students, which motivates them well. For high-level spells, a magic circle is important. What kind of circle is that? The magic ring formed with the help of the magic heart is called a circle. There are usually 9 of them, but the 9th circle is the domain of dragons, so humans can only reach the 8th. So the 4th prince is also a wizard. Well, of course, Ryak is already an excellent first circle magician. The great master praised the boy, the redhead heard it, soon Kia will also have a magical heart. And what kind of magic circle does the most powerful sorceress of the continent have? The girl lowered her eyes to the book, and they would talk about this later. Now it was time for everyone to rest. And where is the lavender fairy now? The master said that she needs to do some things. So the lady asked the knights to look after the children. It was better than doing nothing, but still not their specialty. So these two were already friends. In such a huge mansion there were only 2 children, so it was bound to happen. Or maybe the young student was the first to make contact, but the young gentleman is still adamantly awaiting the return of the Viscountess. The girl tried to talk to the prince several times, but she could not find the courage. And in the end, Kia gave in and just sat down next to the boy. Why was he staring so hard at one point? The poor thing doesn't yet know that Ryak only reacts to Raina. Oh, that's bad. These kids have yet to find a common language. The greatest sorceress has the 8th circle. She is almost as powerful as dragons. So how much stronger does the little villain need to become to give Raina a decent life? The 4th heir wants to quickly gain strength and knowledge to make the fairy's life easier. And if the boy can become useful and outstanding, then the sorceress will not abandon him. By the way, speaking of the sorceress, where is Raina now? And when will she return to Heibe's residence? The vice-captain of the knights approached the boys, and His Highness is currently busy, of course. Ryak is diligently awaiting Raina's return. What a pity, because the master asked me to pass on one assignment to his students, isn't it true? The matter is simple, but the lady said that the children will definitely need help. What will the children say about this? Well, of course, the fairy's favorite student will help. They will also take the redhead. What needs to be done? Well, that's great. They'll have a wonderful time. The captain will be a nurse for the first time and hopes that he won't need a shield with these 2 demons. Meanwhile, the sorceress was transported to another city to check on the main character of the novel. Significant changes have already affected the current life of the main villain. This means that other key characters were probably expecting new plot branches, but there seemed to be no problems here. The only princess of the Vetugan Empire, the main character of the Vetugenia Garden, Viven Asperada. At the age of 15, the poor heiress of the emperor got into a terrible accident, and because of the tragedy that happened, the princess fell into a deep sleep for 7 years. This story begins with her awakening. Raina checked Kia. Not only her character had changed, her key and exceptional gift had disappeared. Her talent for fencing had disappeared. This means that her intervention could have changed the main characteristics of Princess Viven. And here's how to track changes from the original storyline so that you can prevent them in time. Using a tracking spell on the protagonist's ID, Raina knows that he is still in Vetugenia. And apparently, the key character is now working as a messenger for mercenaries. Well, since the main characters haven't experienced any major changes in their life path, we can leave here. This is good news. It means that significant changes affected only the main villain. But this, on the contrary, is good. And his faithful assistant, Kia, just a minute, and what is that on the dresser? The great sorceress went to the chest of drawers and took a small bag from there. Inside there was fruit peelings. It is the hard skin of the fruit that is used by those suffering from insomnia. The rind of this fruit is a powerful sleep aid that is sprayed with a rich aroma. It is also very interesting why there is a powerful sleeping pill next to the main character's bed. We need to get out of here before Raina is noticed. Some woman entered Princess Vivien's private chambers. She was wearing a luxurious dress, all kinds of jewelry. She was clearly an aristocrat. But something is clearly wrong with this lady. And why is the bag of fruit peels lying on the floor? It was lying on the dresser. The woman immediately picked up the bag and placed it back at the head of the princess's bed, after which the vile aristocrat looked into the window and closed it with curtains. This woman's name is Simone Asperada, the main character's new stepmother. Recently, there was the wedding of Duke Asperad, so this Simone received the status of Duchess. Why use such a strong sleeping pill? Isn't the girl already in a deep sleep? It's worrying, but there's nothing Raina can do for now. Viven is safe and sound now, so it's time for her to go back. Of course, the Viscountess will return to the fate of the main character a little later, but for now she needs to deal with the little villain. And here is the sorceress. She has returned. Wait, where is her faithfully awaiting little prince? Riva always waited for her return. There was never a staircase at the main entrance to Hebe's residence. Apparently, the knights finally completed the Viscountess's task. That's great. Raina was always worried about the little villain waiting so much all the time, and even for her alone. And now the boy has company, and even 3 strong nurses, and what are those sounds? Holy shit, what kind of horror is this? It looks like a serial killer was at work here. Is there anyone alive? Did the kids really not like their nannies and decide to get rid of them? Then a little villain emerged from under the table. The master returned. Yeah, well, she had no doubt that it was Riak who wiped everyone off the face of the earth. Mrs. Hart is back. Captain Pearson is safe and sound. What a relief. Even all his fingers are in place. And the student is here too, and the boys had a good time here. And what they were doing here, Sir Pearson was already counting whether all the servants were in place. Nothing special, just some kids were cooking here. Raina is afraid to ask who they cooked from. Cooking is very difficult, but the students still tried. They were all covered in flour, and the kitchen turned into a battlefield. In their country, forcing a member of the imperial family to cook is a crime. It is an activity that is good for the sensory system, but the color is suspicious. The night uncles put out 2 fires and broke up 4 fights. But the kids are still great, yeah. Then the chef of Raina's house, Dur, crawled out from under the table, which means he blamed everything on the captain and hid. After 19 attempts, 4 fights and 2 fires, these 2 finally created their masterpiece. Well, let the chef bring this creation here. Sir Dur took the children's tray, wrapping his hands in cloth. It's all so scary. What kind of gastronomic horror is this? How creepy. This thing is looking straight at Raina. This purple flower looks very much like a fairy. The prince himself came up with its shape. Yes, that's obvious. It feels like these things are about to come to life and start a rebellion against humanity. What talented students? Riak was in charge, but the redhead helped him in everything. This dough was colored with red cabbage, and the chef couldn't just ask the kids to wash the fruit. As expected from Raina's students, her kids are skilled in everything. The children immediately blushed. Now is the time to try it, because the chef is always the first to try the dishes. Sir Dur urgently needs to go to town for vegetables and cheese, and the captain will help him, so they abandon their mistress. Oh well. The girl took 1 small bite and began to carefully chew the student's dessert. The most important thing is to keep a straight face and not lose consciousness. We'll have to take this gastronomic torture with us to the next war. How lucky the girl is that she is a descendant of dragons. She would already be on the floor in convulsions. What if the kids decide to give up magic for cooking? That won't happen. What a relief. Mrs. Hart is a real hero. She has so much courage and bravery. Even if these 2 don't even suck up, the children left a piece for them too. The students need to repeat the spells. Phew, Raina will never let those 2 cook again. The captain has something to say to Milady Hart. What's the matter? Today, during the cooking process, the 4th prince said something strange. The kids are so great. Now they just need to carefully press the mold onto the dough. They will succeed. You need to press a little. Then the mold will do its job itself. His Majesty is trying so hard. Captain Pierce thought that the boy was only interested in magic, but he also excels in cooking. If the 4th heir to the throne learns something new, then Raina will not abandon him that. Where does the poor child even get such thoughts? He shouldn't try at all to be loved. Did the kid really say that? The chef heard it too. It breaks the sorceress's heart. Night fell quickly. Both children were very tired from the day and quickly fell asleep. The main villain was sweetly snoring in his bed when a sorceress came to see him. Raina must dispel these terrible thoughts from Riak. They cause so much pain and fear. The charming boy immediately woke up when he heard the steps of his fairy. Raina woke him up. The sorceress is very happy that her baby is no longer sleeping. This means that they can have fun together. Raina suggests going on a picnic. In the pitch-black night, the fairy saw Riak's eyes. They were barely open. It's dark and scary outside, but with the most powerful sorceress around, the prince has nothing to fear. Besides, Kia is now fast asleep, and they will only be able to sneak out of the house together. The first student's eyes immediately lit up. Riak loved it when they spent time with the fairy alone. That's wonderful, but it's very cold outside. The girl snapped her fingers. It's really cold outside now, so that will be enough. Riak can't move. The boy feels like a snowdrift. Raina giggled and opened the window in the children's bedroom, what the fairy had in mind. The main character grabbed the wrapped ball and went out onto the balcony, and what next? 1 step, and the sorceress and the little villain jumped down, but they had only just begun to live. They both have something to lose. The little prince can already stop torturing his throat and open his eyes. The 4th prince felt something soft with his hands and opened his eyes. It was a bed or something. The huge soft bed was floating in the air. Wow! It was like they were on a flying ship. Below them is a whole village, and above them is a starry sky. How incredible. The stars in the sky are especially beautiful today. Raina is glad that she shares this beauty with her favorite student. This is just amazing. Well, and the boy was afraid to go on a picnic with her. Riak will not be afraid anymore. The girl noticed that the baby was suffering in his sleep, and his consciousness was returning him to the nightmare he had lived through. The boy cried and asked for forgiveness. He kept shouting that he was in pain and scared. Raina's heart was breaking into pieces. The heroine clutched the prince's blanket tightly and told him to wrap himself up better. She would not allow anyone to hurt him again. This child deserves nothing but endless happiness. Raina looks so happy. It's because Riak is next to her. And the fourth heir knows what these stars are. The prince doesn't know them. These stars protect the boy. Riak looked at Raina with distrust. The prince knew that she was the greatest sorceress in the history of the continent. This means that the girl can even command the stars, so she ordered them to protect the child. So from now on, the star guards will always watch over Riak. A fairy cannot lie, so it is true. And during the day, Raina will protect her beloved prince and will never leave him, even if he begs for it. The baby's cheeks immediately turned red. The fairy's words clearly had a response in his soul. This means that the greatest sorceress will protect the prince both day and night. Then Riak will no longer be afraid of anything. Somewhere up there in the sky, the Tuamotu archipelago must be hovering, a group of 78 islands. And underground, where the islands disappeared, there must be a powerful dragon sleeping. We should check his lair. So Raina was sure that she would live a carefree life as a lazy village girl. But for the sake of this child's happiness, she put her fate on the line. And he doesn't regret it for a second. Parting with the idle life of a village landowner is only a small price to pay for his happy ending. And so, 4 happy years passed in a secluded and quiet village in Hebei. Local estates were restored and residents returned to farming. Even the 3 imperial knights had already become accustomed to the quiet and measured life in the village. Thanks to the waterway built by their mistress, Hebei is once again enjoying a bountiful harvest. The knights also worked hard during the day. The boys harvested the crops, and at night they repaired the pens for the pets. All the villagers now have happy faces. Solving everyday problems can bring so much happiness. Seeing the joy of these people is truly gratifying and fills life with a completely different meaning. However, when they return to their work in the capital, apparently they simply forgot about the 3 of them. Why is Kian yelling so much? He can no longer sit without real work. And his skin became dry, and his hair dull from the village water. They have been here for 4 years. Are the knights stuck here forever, and Kian will become ugly? The administration of the Imperial Knights stopped answering them. They didn't even see the face of the new commander. This is normal in general. And their mistress absolutely does not want to return to the capital. The deputy commander must protest to his superiors. What deputy leaves his post for 4 years? Why is their captain so happy? He is looking at the orphanage again. The thought of being stuck in the countryside forever is depressing, but the sight of children is somehow healing, and Korn and Lady Raina's students are the only calling cards of Hebei. In general, it was quite unexpected that their Viscountess took the children as her students. Their lady is very noble and sincere. After the arrival of the prince and Kia, she continued to accept students. Meanwhile, the village elder continued to foist children on the sorceress. After all, the lady needed children with mana. Lady Raina never said anything like that. It was just an excuse to take Kia with her. And this pompous little boy is constantly fighting with the little prince, and there are subtitles in his eyes that he is just waiting for Raina to fall asleep. This poor guy has nowhere else to go. Well, let the bully stay in the castle, but no more children. However, the old man immediately ran away from the residence without even listening to his Viscountess. He was serious now. The next day, the headman brought another child. This girl also has mana. The next day, the old man brought 2 small animal children, citing the presence of magical mana. Hello? Once again, the resourceful old man has found a treasure with mana inside for Milady Hart. Is the headman asking for trouble? There is a limit to the number of children that a sorceress can look after. But what to do with these children then? The village orphanage is overcrowded. These kids will simply end up on the street. Let the old man place new children in empty houses. There were enough of them to house a company of soldiers. But the kids will be much better off living in their Viscountess's big castle. They must have been rehearsing or something. There is no need to try to put pressure on the great sorceress. Raina wiped an entire empire off the face of the earth quickly and without regret. The children's eyes became even bigger and more tearful. The sorceress is a tough nut to crack, you can't get through to her like that. The sorceress will build another orphanage, let the headman send them there. The lady will teach the children how to control mana in the new orphanage she will build. Let them listen to their mentor. Hey, that's not what Raina said at all. This old man should be sent to marketing. The kids' faces immediately lit up with joy. The poor children have no one left. They are not guilty of anything. They just want to have a roof over their heads, food, warmth, and care. The greatest and most invincible sorceress, Raina Hart, has given up, which means her children are her Achilles' heel. It's so funny to watch the kids, one of them puffing his cheeks just as discontentedly as Rhino said. And here is Mrs. Hart's chief disciple, the fourth heir to the throne of the empire. Since moving to the lands of Hebei, the boy has grown so much and matured. The prince is strong and smart beyond his years, and he also has an unusually pure and kind heart. Milady Hart is waiting for His Highness in the study. So funny, the little gentleman's face is always so impassive. However, at the mere mention of Lady Raina, this little guy turns into a contented cat. And here is Viscountess Hart's second student. The girl has also grown up and always looks after the younger ones with care. I need to find out the latest gossip from the girl. Kian has already forgotten that he is a knight or something, where Kia is heading. And why isn't the girl in the mistress's magic lesson now? Well, the path of magic is not for Kia after all. Well, it's time for the student to return to the castle. There's a lot of work ahead. What's wrong with her? Teenage dramas, confusion of desires and thoughts. Kian is preparing to become a village playwright or something. And so the main villain turned into a beautiful young man, contrary to the original plot. Riak easily reached the third circle, but the wall before the fourth seems insurmountable to him. Training is not enough to become a great magician. It takes a profound insight, a unique experience, a turning point, and the prince will have to go to the imperial palace. The creature will wait for the fourth prince there. Again, that strange voice calls Riak. The young villain covered his ears so as not to hear the annoying voice, but it was all in vain. I wonder when the heir to the throne will be able to become a great wizard like the master. The young man must succeed at all costs in order to give Raina the same happy life she gave him, so that the Lavender Fairy would be proud of her student. But where is the sorceress herself? And here comes the master. The girl warmly patted the boy on the head. The fourth prince carefully stepped back and fixed his hair. Raina had not changed at all. She had received a letter. First, 2 years ago, her kitten refused to sleep in the same bed with the master. Now she doesn't let him cuddle her. The years are so cruel. The heroine's aging has stopped because she is a quarter dragon, but this boy does not spare her at all. Very soon they will look the same age. Then it will be difficult to call him a baby. It will be strange. And when did the little prince manage to grow so much, and the other heroes changed so much? To the sorceress's great happiness, all events are now proceeding according to the original plot. I need to pull myself together, otherwise Raina and the children have become a real wimp, and what kind of letter is this anyway? A petition to destroy the lizardmen's lair that is located in the Kingbon Valley near Rocktem. In the original story, the lizardmen weren't strong monsters. Even if Raina didn't intervene, the army should be able to handle them. Meanwhile, the fourth prince was stealthily glancing at the text of the letter. The sorceress raised the sheet of paper up. Riak's eyes moved after it, which meant that His Majesty was interested. Well, for his level of power and strength, dealing with a pack of lizardmen is no problem. So what does her baby think? Riak is not a baby anymore. What does this old man think? He can take on this matter. This will be Raina's favorite student's first mission. She's about to cry. And so the day of the young villain's first mission came. Everything was ready. The butler was seeing off his mistress and the prince. And where is Kia now? The girl went to an orphanage again. If the girl was interested in magic, Raina would gladly take her with them. But Kaya began to avoid magic, and she is also afraid of blood. It seems that the grown-up Kia spends all her free time in an orphanage. It would be great if she found something she likes to do. To be honest, the girl has been worried about this little girl for a long time. This time, Kia has no talent for either magic or fencing, so her path is not yet clear. Does the little girl really have no talent for fencing? Maybe she is progressing slowly. A month was enough to understand that. Kia still can't take a basic stance, but the young gentleman has run far ahead of his peers. He clearly has a unique talent for this. And in magic, the girl reached the second circle with difficulty, and she didn't even try for the third. Can the hero's innate talents change if the plot is different from the original? And why did this only affect Ki? Raina will not force Kia to do something she doesn't like or can't do. The main thing is that she grows up kind and healthy. But Ryak's numerous talents have already crossed the boundaries of the plot. He can even track the movements of Captain Pierce. Sir Piers is an outstanding commander of the 1st Imperial Knights, and the prince is already fighting on par with him. It's just incredible. And a little further, this beautiful young man will have no equal either in magic or in fencing. Forward, wild kittens. The 4th heir to the throne is ready. They can go on a mission with the sorceress. That's wonderful. Only Ryak must do everything himself from start to finish. Raina promised that she would not help him, only watch. Let the gentlemen take care of themselves on the mission. The butler wishes them good luck. Only the lizard men need it. Teleportation magic transported the heroes to a forest, and the terrible screams of monsters were heard everywhere. The young villain easily parried every attack of the horde of monsters. Ryak is simply perfect in everything, simply incredible. Raina will have to fight off a crowd of his fans to find the one for him among them. But why is her baby so sad? He's doing amazingly well. What if he realized that Raina added onions to the cutlets, or guessed that she only gives pocket money to Kia, although she still spends it on the children? Well, the young prince has almost finished cleaning up. It's time to go down to the incredible winner. Then the sound of hooves was heard behind the sorceress. Raina was not expecting anyone here. A small detachment of knights appeared from the forest thicket, this form. The sorceress knew her well, and here is Raina Hart, the commander of the 1st Imperial Knights. Dressered. The sorceress's prediction turned out to be wrong. His lordship is in critical condition. Milady Raina said that the ruler would die in 12 years. If the Viscountess does not keep her word, she will not be able to continue to care for the Emperor's 4th heir. Mrs. Hart needs to return to the Imperial Palace immediately with the prince, and this is an order, not a request. Meanwhile, the young villain continued to exterminate monsters, but it was still not enough. The 4th prince needs to reach the next circle as soon as possible. And for this, the young man needs to work even harder. He needs to gain his own unique experience. Some kind of insight that would serve as a starting point in the formation of Ryak. Then the lizard man poked somewhere with his clawed paw. What the lizard was pointing at the prince. The heir to the throne shook his head. There were people among the boulders, which meant that this scaly one decided to threaten the young man with their lives. Okay, time to try out combat magic in action. The 4th prince began to cast a spell. The air was immediately obediently cut by a magical mark, and the lizardmen backed away in fear, after which the monster was pierced by dozens of spears, and a shrill roar was heard. Blackmailers always end badly. There was no point in poking the prince. The main villain approached the cage with the prisoners and waved his sword. The people from the village are waiting over there. Now all the prisoners are free. Let them quickly leave here and watch their feet. There are a lot of corpses there. The locals bowed gratefully to their young savior and ran to look for their fellow tribesmen. We need to get back to Raina as soon as possible. The prince has completed his mission, and who is that next to the master? A flame lit up in the gloomy eyes. This uniform, white jackets, Ryak remembered this outfit well. The young hero immediately rushed to the top of the mountain and covered the distance in just a couple of steps. The 4th prince immediately noticed the squad leader and made him his target. A rustling and crackling sound was heard in the tree branches, and the head of the knights immediately raised his head. A young warrior with a sword in his hands flew out of the tree crown. What the? The force of the blow is so destructive. Is it a teenager or something? Does the sorceress really have such a skilled warrior? The commander has never encountered such power. This boy was raised by ninjas or something. This can't be. He can easily single-handedly take down the best regiment of Imperial Knights. The young villain only made a warning blow, after which he jumped to the side. Today, the prince's target was lucky. Ryak realized his invincible strength in comparison with the Emperor's best knight. This freak is the enemy of the master, which means this guy is the sorceress's apprentice. She was busy teaching instead of being in the capital. In just a couple of years, this boy will become the strongest and most dangerous warrior on the continent, and will become a threat to the ruler. It's better to deal with him now. His Majesty shouldn't worry. He's just the Emperor's minion. Wait, what did Milady Hart just say? This destructive and raging power belongs to the 4th prince? But isn't this nasty guy with a ponytail an enemy of the sorceress? Fortunately for him, he isn't yet. This degenerate sensed a threat in the prince. He needed to be on guard, after all. This was the first time Ryak had seen the Emperor's first knights, and the first impression of them leaves much to be desired. Raina giggled. These cretins forgot whose family they serve, why none of them greeted a member of the Heterovan family properly. The 1st Imperial Knights looked at each other questioningly. Their captain dismounted from his horse and fell on one knee before the fourth heir to the throne, greeting the fourth son of Vetugenia. The rest of the knights immediately repeated the actions of their commander. They greeted the fourth son of Heteroven. This slippery commander-in-chief understood that if they delayed their greeting even one more second, they would be sent to execution for treason against the crown. Let Riak get used to it. He should have always been greeted like this, and the ruler's health is in danger. I'll really have to go to the Empire and visit the old man. The local villagers greeted the lizardmen captives and joyfully celebrated their heroes. This is not Viscountess Hart's merit at all. Her student single-handedly cleared out the monster's lair and saved people from their captivity. How is this possible? The sorceress's apprentice is so young, then he will become the greatest warrior of the continent. And so it will be. Thanks to the young hero, all the residents remained alive. They are immensely grateful for their salvation. The young savior is so strong and fearless. Yes, Riak is really wonderful, and soon everyone will be talking about it. Well, what does a student feel when he receives his first gratitude and reward some mixed feelings? Her boy earned his first money. It's time for the master to buy him a safe, by the way. The ability to save is an important skill. This is only the prince's first award. He is still so far from ideal. He needs to try harder. If the heir to the throne wants to be stronger, then let him go to the imperial palace. That voice again. Is it just Riak's imagination? Or is there really something in the emperor's palace? And what did the mentor decide the sorceress really needs to return to the imperial palace? The past is not forgotten in 4 years, especially one so tragic and painful. His lordship is very unwell. The Viscountess will have to leave Hebei for 3 days. And the master's apprentice also needs to go with her to the castle, only if the prince himself wants it. The girl has time to prepare for the trip, which means the ruler's illness is not fatal at all. The fourth heir can think about it. They have enough time before leaving for the capital. The young villain remembers that once upon a time, Raina made a wish to the garden fairy in the palace. It was like this. In fact, the girl was pretending to go and feed a homeless kitten. Why such a question at all? Riak thought that in that case fairies lived in the palace. If Raina confirms, she will be lying to her boy, and if she denies, she will give herself away. Riak will understand that she lured him out, and did not make a wish to the fairy then. And what should the girl do now? Save her reputation and lie or disappoint the prince? There are no options here, of course. Fairies live in the imperial palace. Raina was really ashamed in front of the baby, but the master's pride prevailed. In that case, the voice in the heir's head must belong to the palace fairy. And it is the fairy who calls the young man back to the emperor's castle. Riak will also go with the master. The empire of Vetugenia had not changed. During the 4 years of the sorceress's absence, the capital continued to flourish. The knights began to kiss the capital's lands. Finally, civilization. Long live the capital, Xenia. However, not all the guests were happy to return to the capital. The fourth prince puffed out his cheeks in displeasure. Well, what's wrong again? Isn't the kid happy with the capital? There are parks, cafes, pastry shops, and Kian's favorite creams right here. Stop talking about your skin. Let your partner first personally enjoy the extravaganza of softness after Kiana's cream, and then talk. This guy is incorrigible. Rowan will take the carriage for convenience. Let the gentleman wait for him here. Captain Pierce noticed the confusion on his mistress's face. Everything was fine with Milady Hart. She turned pale. It's all because of that damn bracelet on the sorceress's wrist. An hour ago, the greatest sorceress teleported her retinue to the main gates of Xenia. The guards, stunned by their appearance, asked the guests to return and undergo a proper search. Let my lady show her documents. The first partner kicked the second. This is Raina Hart herself. She is the most powerful sorceress in the history of Vetugenia, and also a recognized war heroine. How could you not recognize Viscountess Hart? The guards will probably have problems now. Today is my partner's first day on duty, and he asks for forgiveness from the great sorceress. The guard asks Milady Hart for her hand. Why does this boy need Raina's hand? Maybe now in the capital he greets with a handshake. What the heck? Mages above the third circle are required to wear a mana-blocking bracelet. Why would it be so? Not long ago, teleportation was banned in the capital without the personal permission of Her Majesty. The fourth prince is about to rip the arms off this suicide bomber. Everything is fine. The sorceress is not in any danger. There is no pain. Mana is almost not blocked. This bracelet only suppresses the teleportation spell since when? The Empress introduced this decree 4 years ago. That's the thing, this rabble was really scared for their rotten skin back then. But Raina can easily destroy the bracelet. Each piece of jewelry has an identification number, and in that case the Viscountess will become a suspect. This law was created by a comrade of Raina's mentor. It is better to bypass this law than to break it. If a war hero begins to openly ignore the laws, this will undermine the trust of the people. The will of the ruler must be above everything and everyone. The girl should not undermine the foundations of this state, so she will play by the rules. By the way, Viscountess Hart is the guardian of this young guest. So this teenager also uses magic. Riak can even show it to this ignoramus. His lordship should not turn anyone into dirt. Not at all, this young man is a cousin and does not use magic, which is what the master just said. This boy is still very young, so he cannot have any special strength, and besides, the sorceress Hart herself vouched for him. Raina is forced to wear a bracelet, but thanks to the fake ID, Riak passed unnoticed, and here comes the carriage. And why is the young cousin puffing out his charming cheeks so much? What's the matter? The fourth prince pouted even more. He was not at all upset about who said that. It's a lie. The corners of the prince's lips are turned down. Is it because his masters forced him to wear the bracelet? At that moment, the young villain felt powerless, the most vile and poisonous feeling. Commander Pierce then grabbed the young man and said that young Riak could not disregard the Empress's laws, at least for now. Only Emperor Vetugenia can do this. Everyone bows before the power and influence of the ruler. And this means only one thing. Riak must become stronger and gain enough power to protect Raina. And if the young villain meets the mysterious owner of the voice, he will definitely become powerful. The fourth heir to the throne does not want the sorceress to call him cousin. Ryaku doesn't like this address at all. It's clear that this is the beginning of puberty or something. And here is the main imperial palace of Vetugenia. It is still just as majestic. The maid came out to greet His Highness's guests, and she escorted Mrs. Hart to an audience with the son of the Empire. How strange, since the first division of imperial knights went after Viscountess Raina. So why did Milady Hart arrive at the palace with the 3rd Division? Didn't the first-line knights visit the lady? The sorceress threw this stinking trash onto some miserable island. There will be more questions. Those scum didn't even bow to His Highness the Prince without her order, but at the same time asked to be teleported back to the palace. Of course, the maid is very sorry. There is a shortage of decent staff now, and where is the 4th Prince of Vetugenia himself? His lordship is standing right in front of the maid. How is it that this young man of extraordinary beauty and nobility is that very beast? What's the matter? The maid also decided not to show due respect to her prince, whom she had not seen for so many years. The maid doesn't want to go to a desert island. She's happy to welcome the 4th son of the Empire. And why is this lady frozen? Why doesn't the maid raise her head back? The maid can only do this with the permission of the young prince. Riak must tell her to raise her head. The young villain cleared his throat and in a dispassionate tone ordered the impolite woman to raise her head. The maid will take Viscountess Hart to his lordship, but only Raina will go to the old man. The ruler will call the 4th heir separately. This is suspicious. Raina will keep an eye on this. She will return soon. The thunderstorm of the world of magic smiled now. If the prince gets bored, he can play with these 3. Hey, they are actually serious knights. As soon as the great sorceress turned around, the young villain no longer heard anything or anyone. Let the knights go about their business as they must, for they must keep His Highness company. Sir Pierce, Sir Kian, and Sir Rowan did not come to the capital as the personal guard of the 4th son. Let them go about their business. The 4th heir wants to stroll around the Emperor's domain. Kian loves his lordship so much, let him leave him alone, of course, but he still loves the prince. The second in command must go with his knights to act as a shield against the new captain. Oh, these ragamuffins. His Highness will be fine. Sir Pierce has nothing to worry about. He'd better look after those 2 children. Let the heir to the throne follow the voice. Riak has an important task. He must find the owner of the voice. With every step, the young villain's soul became heavier and more anxious. The 4th prince's eyes fell on his old hiding place. The abandoned castle was still as cold and gloomy. Since Riak's move, this palace has fallen into disrepair and is now just a ruin of memory. And here is the very same clearing where Raina made a wish to the garden fairy. And most likely that mysterious voice in the prince's head belongs to this fairy. The 4th heir must become stronger so that the master will be proud of him. The young man began to repeat his wish and started shouting, "Riak wants to become stronger. Doesn't the fairy hear?" What was that annoying noise? It was the 4th prince who had returned to the emperor's palace. They haven't seen each other for a long time. Who is this vile and evil aunt? Riak has no idea what kind of old woman she is. And who is this woman? And how dare this youth ask Her Majesty who she is? The little bastard has become bolder, and what is this frightening aura emanating from the air? Riak can smell the stench of this individual from here. Her soul is rotten through and through. They will definitely not be friends. Meanwhile, the great sorceress appeared before the son of Vetugenia. Raina was not bored at all. It is very interesting. And why did the ruler kick everyone out of the throne room? So Viscountess Hart heard from some of the scum that their emperor was very ill. However, his lordship looks fresh and cheerful. It does not at all look like he is enduring any suffering or inconvenience. Milady Hart promised to act as tutor to the emperor's fourth son. And while Lady Raina hasn't contacted the prince's father for 4 years, the ruler wants to hold a parent-teacher meeting. His Majesty wanted to call the young heir later, then they could hold a parent-teacher meeting. The ruler is not interested in all this. Who would doubt it? The sorceress promised to save the life of her ruler. It will be 8 years later. The handsome villain lowered the bloody crown onto his black hair. After the blood hunt, the prince sighed heavily from fatigue and sat down on the empty throne. The monster finally swallowed the imperial palace. Therefore, nothing like this could happen, and in the future, it will not happen thanks to Raina. So the greatest sorceress knows something about dark magic, what? As far as the girl knows, dark magic is prohibited in the Empire of Vetugenia by the Emperor himself. Dark magic captivates magicians. It cannot be studied or attempted. This dark matter is addictive. One only has to touch dark magic once, and it will immediately absorb, which means this hypocritical old man has turned to forbidden matter. The Emperor's eyes were poisoned, his pupil completely blackened. That's what this greedy and rotten bastard deserved. The power-hungry ruler has no talent for magic, so he used a magic stone. Raina Hart must save him. The closer she gets to know the imperial couple, the more she believes that she will kill them all there herself. Viscountess Hart is going to save the ruler in 8 years past, which means the emperor must live until then. And what the hell happened to this stupid and pathetic old man? A month ago, a traveling circus troupe arrived in the capital, and the emperor invited them to the court to perform. During the performance, the old witch presented her master with one little thing. The old woman called her gift a priceless artifact that only their monarch was worthy of. The lord thought it was a restorative potion, but the curse was not in the liquid, but in the bottle itself. The bottle was enchanted with black magic, and while the monarch slept, the vessel was activated and filled his body with poisons. The ritual symbols at the bottom of the bottle are a form of dark magic, a curse created solely to accumulate toxins in the owner's body. The troupe and that damn old woman immediately disappeared from the capital. Raina is not knowledgeable in such matters. The crime investigation department would be more suitable. The monarch urgently needs treatment. The sorceress is ready to examine the affected area. Meanwhile, in the summer garden of the imperial palace, the empress's offspring was enjoying tea. Today is such a wonderful day, the air has nothing to do again. The empress entered the summer garden with a gloomy look. Her Majesty decided to please with her presence. Her Majesty's minion immediately turned her attention to the young man next to her. This child, yes, that same fourth prince. He wandered around the palace unattended as always. The empress took him with her. A blatant lie. This vile bastard threatened Riak that his disobedience would put his beloved Raina in a difficult position. The empress's 6 bared their teeth. The dancer's offspring inherited her inhuman beauty. How infuriating. The lady seems to be looking at his irritating mother, and the heir doesn't even know court etiquette. Ryaku has enough knowledge that even at this young age he is admired not because of his title. Such insignificant specimens cannot know such things. The empress's offspring giggled poisonously. There was no place prepared for the fourth prince. The son will take care of his little brother, of course. That's all he's buzzing about now. Riak must not smear anyone in the summer garden. Sir Pierce insistently requested this. The vile heir put a cup of tea and cake on the floor and invited Riak to eat there. After all, the gender is more in line with the origin of the fourth prince. And why does this boy give off such a frightening aura? And why is he so unshakable? The maids giggled, supporting the mockery of the empress's offspring. His mother is proud of him. The difference is that wherever Riak eats, his dignity and nobility will be evident. But no outfit can hide the rottenness and low quality of these pathetic nobodies. What a little bastard. He should have cried and run away. How scary. There is so much raging power in those eyes. How dare this little rat disdain and humiliate the empress herself? Surely this bastard did not achieve anything worthwhile in magic, even studying with Hart herself, so there is nothing to be afraid of here. The empress clearly overestimated Milady Raina, that's for sure. The miracle didn't happen. If it weren't for the emperor, his wife would have thrown the sorceress into prison long ago. She didn't even express her respect to her upon her arrival. And in general, can an entire empire fall at the hands of a young girl? After all, Raina's mentor was a comrade of the monarch, and she could take credit for his achievements. Here, 3 vile bodies froze in fear. Their faces showed genuine horror and fear. What the hell was going on? The teapot shattered into pieces, splashing the hot drink all over the scum where the damn guards were. The maids looked at their uniforms in horror. They were all sticky. What was going on here? How was this possible? These pathetic brats don't even dare to speak the name of the continent's greatest sorceress. They are all dirt underfoot, for the cleansing of which people will only be grateful. These scum are madly afraid of Raina and envy her. The bastards roared in pain. Steel flashed in their gloomy eyes. No one dares to speak like that about Ryak's teacher. They will remember it. Meanwhile, the young villain's mentor scanned the affected area of his lordship. Since the monarch himself did not use black magic, Raina will stop the poisoning and create an antidote to remove the toxins. His Highness could have prepared the antidote himself, although it would have been much easier to do so with dragon blood. Considering the complexity of the potion, the sorceress needs compensation, and to piss off this nasty old man a little, the Viscountess will be content with the Lindgram mine, which belonged to the monarch. It's a trifle. They used to mine gold there. Now they hardly find a dozen nuggets there. Raina has completely fallen behind life in its wilderness. Judging by his goofy smile, the old man has no idea about the diamonds under the azaleas. According to the plot, the main character, Tieran, must open this mine in 8 years. Raina will use it a little and return it. Viscountess Hart's resources will run low this season, so the financial situation of Raina's holdings leaves her no choice. This means that the sorceress does not trust her ruler, not for a minute, and she has always trusted paper more. We'll have to keep Raina quiet when she finds out the mine is empty. That old man will want the mine back when he finds out about the diamonds. The ruler signed the contract. The Viscountess can take back her mine. The prank was a success. Perhaps somewhere now sad Tieran is crying, but Raina will use his mine sparingly. The Emperor was quite pleased, so he was unlikely to bother her again anytime soon. The sudden trip to the palace turned out to be very successful for the girl. Black magic masters are rare, and casting a curse on a specific person is a difficult job. Raina had no idea that such powerful warlocks existed in this dimension. There must be a good reason for such a character to exist. This fragment was not in the novel, which means it can seriously affect the plot of what happens. Meanwhile, the actions of the great sorceress were closely watched. This damn girl, everything shouldn't be like this. Could this really be that greatest sorceress? Well, such power and strength can greatly influence future plans. After all, it was this girl who destroyed an entire empire with one movement of her hand. What was the name of that heroine of Vetugenia? I think it was Raina Hart. We need to dig deeper and find out everything about this girl. She shouldn't interfere with the plans. So today, the girl had 2 goals in mind when visiting the imperial palace. From the meeting with the old man in the crown, the sorceress got everything she wanted. Now all that remains is the library. Something that gives Ryaku great power according to the plot sleeps in the library. If you destroy this reptile, then the villain's path will be completely erased. This bracelet reacts to the heartbeat, which means it should always be worn by a person. The Empress's trinket is so annoying, I need to get rid of it. If you teleport with the bracelet on your hand, the location changes will immediately be transmitted to the Imperial Army. Sir Knight has done such a good job today. Viscountess Hart is so proud of the court army. The sorceress quickly dropped the distributing accessory from her wrist onto the knight's hand. Well, it's time for Raina to go on business, and the bracelet is a gift as a compliment. Whatever is trying to corrupt Ryaka has long been dormant in the depths of the Imperial Library, and it awakened 2 years ago. The only creature that knows the principles of the world and leads everything, it serves only one master, provided that it receives his soul. And the name of this magical creature is the Book of Zikard. The master of this generation must find the creature in the Imperial Palace. The magical dark book knew that the person who would make a contract with it had already arrived at the castle. A boy with hair as dark as night will soon appear before Zikard, a boy who will hate the entire world along with the book that will curse it and destroy it. And here is this printing trash. She got into trouble. Raina will not let her boy be harmed. Who is this crazy aunt for a book that has known all of existence? The vocabulary is quite meager. How did this psychopath even know about this place? Is she also a dragon? Now this newspaper article will find out. The black book bared its teeth viciously. No man could defeat it. The magic book will make this girl regret standing in the way of the mighty Z-card. The bastard will beg for mercy. Raina rolled her eyes and snapped her fingers. What the heck? This leather one really caught the wisest and most dangerous edition so easily. It's time for this furniture leg rest to go back to its deepest sleep. The greatest sorceress cast a sealing spell and created a magic rune. Wait, why did Raina's seal bounce off and not work? Did this woman want to die? What is she doing? If you close the book, the magic won't work, right? This psychopath knows this too. And how long has she been stalking Z-card anyway? The sorceress tried again and again to put a seal on the book, but alas, let this maniac simply kill her. Let this crazy woman become his mistress. The book offers her a lucrative contract on the best terms. And why should Raina suddenly believe this paper villain? Doesn't she feel the love growing between them? Well, okay, that black-haired boy was certainly the perfect vessel, but this marmalade fairy would do just as well. Horrible mana, no compassion even for the poor little book, worthy qualities to become the mistress of Z-card. Of course, it is a little disturbing that the book cannot see all the information on this crazy one. The sugar fairy must simply trust the powerful little book in a beautiful binding. The dragon heiress's eyes immediately flared up with flames. And what about the fine print of the contract? This fireplace lighter forgot to mention that the price for the contract would be the sorceress's soul. Why is this psychopath so smart? The book doesn't like such clients. Oh well, she will provide her with information, and then the owner will be able to trust her. Kevin Riak Heteroan, 12 years old, a fourth circle mage and student of Raina Hart, whom the book identified as a counterparty. Is there a teacher who is not interested in information about his student? She didn't know that her student had awakened as a fourth circle mage, and at the age of 12, he would surpass even Raina herself. What did this newspaper article just say? The book swallowed nervously that the boy had recently awakened. Kevin Riak received the fourth magic circle. The sorceress immediately teleported to where Z-card's vassal had fled. The girl has a bad feeling about why the fourth prince would suddenly wake up now. The girl's attention was drawn to the frightened moans and magical aura of unprecedented power. The great sorceress immediately froze, studying the current situation. And what's going on here anyway? It's not like she's against something happening to that scum. The empress blackmailed the prince into coming to her tea party, and everyone present tried to make fun of him. The fourth son of Vetugenia did not allow these scoundrels to insult his teacher. These nobodies continued to call the young hero a monster. The girl senses that she will destroy the imperial couple instead of the main villain of the novel. The hunted prince always considered himself a monster, so he did not allow himself to be too happy. Riak is the brightest and most pious man of all. There is so much goodness and soft, righteous strength in him. The sorceress rushed to hug the child. He was not a monster, but this rabble looked exactly like one. Raina was looking for her boy everywhere, and it turns out that Riak is here having fun. She is so proud of him. Her baby has reached the fourth magic circle. Only the master always notices the changes in the prince. The sorceress came at the right time. This vile grimoire may prove useful in the future. But now we are talking about something else. Dragons' pupils have been replaced by human ones. These pathetic wastes didn't learn their lesson last time. Raina Hart is still as arrogant as ever. The empress will never forgive this girl for that day. Keep quiet. Riak sealed the rotten aristocrat's mouth. And where did the viscountess's student pick up such a thing? Raina herself did the same in the imperial garden. The sorceress snapped her fingers, letting this rotten thing continue to remain silent. Riak sealed her mouth again. What a funny game, and how dare these two mock her majesty. Let this dirt be grateful that it has not yet turned into pigeon excrement. The empress will never forget this humiliation. They will both pay for what they did. Yeah, the two mages who passed the third magic circle didn't wear restraining bracelets at the border. But everyone knows what happens to magicians who dare to go against the law of the imperial family. By the way, Riak can already let those poor guys go. The paralysis magic is deactivated. Let the guards grab these two. It seems like they had a great time here, but it's time for them to return to their native lands of Hebei. Checkpoint between the capital of Vetugenia and the imperial palace. But the guard said that if you don't wear the bracelet, you'll become a criminal. And why is my lady's cousin also in handcuffs? The empress almost burst from humiliation. She assured that Raina and Riak would no longer appear in the capital without her permission. What a stupid woman. That's all they need. The emperor stared at his wife in bewilderment. Was she tired of living or something? You can't provoke the strongest and most powerful sorceress. She is the only one. But there can be as many empresses as you like. Well, it was a nice trip to Xenia. I wish I didn't see her for another 10 years. The fourth prince was disappointed and angry with himself. He was unable to protect his master again. That rot said that even the great Raina heart is nothing compared to the power of the empress. The heir is jealous of her, isn't he? Wants the same power. Then let him try to take it away. It sounded like an invitation. For this you need the emperor's crown, but the brat won't even have time to touch it. It will be on the head of the empress's son. All the young villain needs is the crown of the monarch of Vetugenia. Then no one will be able to offend Master Riak. And the young man will do everything to gain the power that her baby was thinking so deeply about. Lady Raina and the young prince cannot be left unattended for a second now that they have already become criminals. They will now go into hiding and create their own criminal group. They have not crossed the law that much. And how are things with the knights? Have they resolved their issues? Well, that's the thing. This whole trinity has been removed. What? And what did the knights want? They had been absent for too long, so the commander himself ordered them to stay in Hebei. Stop arguing. It wasn't the commander who dismissed them. The order came from above, so let them send their complaints there. Doesn't the commander have the authority to interfere in the process? After all, he can stand up for the knights. So the soldiers want someone to stand up for them, but what have they been doing these past 4 years? Raina told him not to tell about what happened in Hebei, in case a paralyzing magic spell appeared if Pierce told. And why did this trinity go silent? Well, everything is clear. Let them get lost. In short, they were thrown out. The knights respect their viscountess so much and dream of continuing to serve her. Wow, Raina Hart is truly the most formidable and scary witch. She brought 2 knights to tears. The students from the orphanage have become so attached to these blockheads, they always wait for Sir Pierce, Sir Kyan, and Sir Rowan. Well, let these deserters do what they want. They adore the viscountess. Well. But Milady Raina was worried about Hebei's finances. How could she possibly take on extra mouths to feed? The sorceress has money, but Sir Pierce remains, he is a key figure. Unlike Kyan and Rowan, who are only of minor importance in the plot. Pierce will become the most outstanding commander of the First Order of Knights, because he knows that Raina has the gift of foresight. This was what the future told the sorceress. Pierce must stay and step into his future, which is significant for the history of Vetugenia. Was it true that the commander would make every effort? Then Raina had no doubt about it. Although there was no mention of Captain Pierce being fired in the original story, it is time for them to return to Hebei. Let the bastards not let down their captain and serve their mistress faithfully and truly, and Kyan will forget about his damn cream. An hour later, a new teleportation window appeared right in front of the capital's checkpoint. A bunch of nasty frontline knights were thrown out of it. Damn Raina Zart, the captain is going to puke. That witch threw them all over the continent like trash. Well, teleporting right in front of the checkpoint guards. They didn't do that. It's all that damn Raina Hart. The knights need to see His Majesty. Yeah, the boys will get by in prison for now. Okay, it's all Raina. A few days later, how good it is to be back in my quiet village. The girl watched her student closely. He had matured so much. Just 2 years ago, her boy was still a child, but now he is already a noble young man. The sorceress guesses what happened that day and caused Riak to release his true, unbreakable power. The system suggests not to forgive these freaks, and she is clearly a fan of Riak, but open hostility with the imperial family now will only harm the prince. Raina's priority is her boy, and her anger comes second, but that doesn't mean she'll leave it at that. The empress and her offspring, concubine, maids, and knights, Raina remembered everyone and left behind a nightmare doll, so the show begins. It was the proud creation of the alchemist who attacked the real Raina 6 years ago. Now every night these abominations will suffer. Let Raina be the villain in this novel, and Riak will think only about the good. And why is the master so happy? It would be better if the master did not return to the palace. Those scum stood in line for their death. The baby is just like Raina. Those rotten humans will continue to say nasty things about the master, and Riak doesn't want Raina to be upset. They could stay in the Hebei lands together forever, rather than returning to the imperial palace. So her boy really wants to stay with his master in a quiet village forever. It's quiet here and they feed him well. Even if the baby is a teenager, let him be patient. Raina hasn't hugged him for so long. Then a frightened Kia ran into the hall. What happened? The girl's face was ashen. A talking book has appeared in the Viscountess's palace. It goes sips and calls names a lot. But Raina had tied this crap up tightly and sealed it in subspace. So this paper recruiter has finally escaped and is looking for someone to sign a contract with. And where is that chatty little book now? The girl just saw that thing in their hallway. Riak must sit in this room and not move until his master says he can. And now little Dan and Benny are wandering around the castle. The hungry book might even want to get their souls. What a loser. The book began to whistle a song. The great grimoire will swallow this world. Dimension Vault. That stupid woman actually tried to lock the great Z card in some kind of trick box. So this is the estate of the greatest sorceress. And why is it so meager? Conquests call for a powerful grimoire. We must decorate this wilderness with the terrifying cries of people. What is this moving book? It was just talking, and Dan wanted to hit a fly with it. The brats don't understand who they're talking to. They've removed their paws. In front of them is the great grimoire of Hickard, on their knees. If this thing is so strong, let it repel the attack of Raina's disciples. 2 on 1. It's vile even for such small fry. Okay, another plan. The book started crying dramatically. Zickard is just a poor grimoire. If you hit him too hard, his cover will tear. The teacher always told the children to handle books with care. Maybe it would be better to let the book go. And who put the textbook in chains anyway? There's only paper and ink inside. Let the book be patient for a little while. The tiger cub will free it now. The boy activated the magic and hit the chains with his strong paw, and that's great. Those brats did it. These snotty fools. Now the great Lord Zickard will show them real pain. What the hell is going on? Let the brats see the terrifying power of the grimoire. Maybe we should call the master. Everyone stand and be afraid. A bottle with some kind of liquid flew into the cover of the book. Those who manage to pour water on the great Lord Zikarad, the children perhaps, will go from here. They fear their mentor much more than some notebook. And here comes the mistress. The boys wanted to catch the talking book and give it to their mentor, but now Zikard's freedom has slipped away from him again. The master speaks softly to the students, which means he is not angry with them. The children should not touch anything strange. The students just wanted to give their teacher something cool, so they gave her cicada shells and lizard tails. The master already has a lot of things. There is no need to drag her something new every time. The children could get hurt. These animals were the first to attack the innocent little book. It only defended itself, slammed its pages shut. Yes, ma'am. Let the kids run and play in the garden. The teacher is grateful for the help in catching this vermin. This inky recruiter is just what Raina needs. What a scary woman. Something happened. Nothing serious. Let Kia take the kids back to the shelter. Riak takes the girl and the students. Let them go together. The master will catch up with them later. Kia took the kids by the hands and led them to the exit. She is so nice. And Riak somehow became friends with her. Now, let the hostess rack her brains to figure out how these leather-bound logs got out of the dimensional storage. Zickard only needs to slightly adjust the spell. So why didn't such a smart thing figure out what it was sprayed with? A potion of submission. The user is obliged to obey the owner. Any disobedience or threat to the owner kills the violator instantly. No, this vault is so cold and lonely. Let the grimoire write a solo album of songs. This notebook, after all, walked around Raina's domain like a street bard, a songwriter. So in the sorceress's safe was kept the potion of submission, which she stole, and here it is. And now Lord Zickard officially belongs to Raina Hart. This stalker is a real demon. The grimoire can only have one owner, so Riak is safe. Zickard didn't get a single soul. Do they feel sorry or something? And still serve this psychopath. Grimoire will complain to the book union, no unpaid labor. Essentially, it is a paper-talking column with a search engine on request. The sorceress has deactivated her chains, one annoying song, and this thing will be chained again. The girl will then study the new gadget, what disdain. Yes, Zickard learned the whole essence of being. Yeah, and the girl has an important day today. They prepared this holiday for several days. The book will go crazy with this woman. Due to a recent incident, the vile empress learned that Riak was already a powerful mage. So, it will be necessary to officially register him in the Association of Magicians. Since this is how it turned out, Raina will show everyone what an amazing and incomparable child she has. And here are the students. Dan and Benny cut out these decorations. It will be very beautiful when the kids hang them all up. And Mabel and Jasmine are wondering whether His Highness would prefer cookies or cake. Ren decided to hang the stars higher. What does the master think? Ren has disgusting taste, what Mabel said. She was simply blinded by the prince's beauty when she was spying on him in the garden. Well, that's it. Ren is not long for this world. All the kids have done a great job, but they need to finish decorating before Riak arrives. Night fell in the lands of Hebei. Distant stars adorned the sky, illuminating the path for travelers. Today the teacher must play ball with the children. Is Dan blind or something? The teacher hasn't finished her drink yet. The girls are having tea here. Why is Mabel so nasty? They have been playing with their dolls with the master for a long time now. It's the boys' turn. The girls will pour some tea for the teacher and then make new outfits for the dolls. What a greedy person. You can't be so nasty. The prince will never fall in love with Mabel. She will definitely kill Ren. Let her come here quickly. The sorceress lifted the fighting children into the air. They will play tag all together. It will be fair. Physical activity is the best way to tire out any child and send him to bed early. The kids have to catch each other in the air. It's so much fun. Their master is the coolest. Raina knows it. The mentor is already returning to the castle. Not yet. She will just go outside to get some air. The last item on the party list was supposed to be baking, and Kia is great at that. The girl's skills never cease to amaze the sorceress. She is so clever. By the way, it's high time to give the girl a gift. This one is for Kia. The girl reached forward and pulled out a silver pendant. What is it? When the sorceress saw this decoration, she immediately thought of her. Kia took such good care of the kids. To be honest, the sorceress had no idea what this modest girl liked. That's why I was very worried before making a choice Raina wanted to please Kia. The little one should also rest. The sorceress will go get some fresh air. Raina's gift lay in the girl's palm. Kia absolutely hates silver. Things with bows, bright flowers, or ribbons are much more suitable for girls. However, Kia is already an adult, so she needs to behave accordingly, and also say that she likes the decoration, otherwise the master will think that she is ungrateful. So it would be better to accept this gift with a big smile on your face. The girl clutched the gift from her mentor in her hand. She had to be perfect. She had to be grateful to the master. Kia keeps an eye on the younger ones, so this is not the time for her childish whims and desires. Of course, the girl loves all her students even at their most capricious peak, but she also needs to devote time to herself. Fighting a horde of demons is much easier than dealing with students. Even the blood of a dragon cannot cope with such a situation. At the end of the clearing, Raina noticed the main villain of the novel, her charming prince admiring the stars. As soon as Riak heard the sorceress's voice, he immediately smiled, as always. And how long has the young heir to the throne been sitting here? Since the moment the master pushed Riak out of the shelter, and they were preparing a surprise. From here you can see Hebe Castle very well, and all the constellations are clearly visible. Riak doesn't want to go for a walk. They haven't gone out together at night for a long time without telling anyone anything. The master also asks, but let the mentor not turn the student into a lump of clothes this time. Let the prince take his mentor's hand and prepare for flight. The great sorceress surrounded them with a magical sphere, which lifted them off the ground and floated smoothly over the village. And the young student really likes the Hebei area, of course, because his mentor is here. Well, Riak is still so young and curious, and in the village it's always the same, that's the beauty of it. But the young prince can see the whole world. It is so huge and interesting, and in this world there will be a master. The baby needs to understand that they can't stay together forever, that's why. Riak will grow up and want to leave. Then he will bring to Raina the one he truly loves. Ugh. The thought that her child will one day get married, how can she hold back her tears? It will definitely not happen. And the teacher likes Hebei. Now Raina is too old for changes, although even in her youth she did not like anything that changed her usual way of life. That's why the sorceress likes such unchanging places as this village, but Raina hasn't aged at all. Well, she's an angel, not a child. Her little villain must definitely find his happiness so that light fills his whole life. For a happy ending for all the heroine's children, a solid financial foundation is needed, just like everywhere else, so Raina is here. The crazy owner is really going to go down there, knowing that inside, well, of course, it's time to get rich. The grimoire welcomes greed, but it itself does not want to go there. Let it slam the pages shut, there are high-quality mana stones there. One such stone will provide a comfortable life for as many as 3 generations. According to this little book, there are 6 of them underground. The old man in the crown gave the Lindrum mine to the Viscountess. In the original it was given to the local lord, and he gave it to the main character to curry favor. Tieran later found a diamond vein deep in the mine, but diamonds are not the sorceress's goal. Information about the deposits in the mine turned out to be outside the available viewing area, so I had to look at it in person. If the mana stones are mined, Tieran's diamonds will not be needed after 8 years. Raina will simply give the mine to him. The stalker has completely lost her mind. A very dangerous creature lives in that cave. This book was written in a gateway or something. The black snake Mudra rests here, its lair deep underground, where the highest quality mana stones grow. They will all die. Mudra is a black snake that never became a dragon, a low-level subspecies of the dragon line. If this scaly one awakens, it will devastate the surrounding lands. Someone will have to face it, so let others take the risk. A human can't handle this monster. Apparently the information about the new Raina is not displayed in the grimoire, which is good. The limit of even the most skilled magician on this continent is 7 circles. This crazy woman believed in herself. This sugar fairy looks like she's about 20 years old, which makes a person so confident. Zikard's combat power only reaches 3 circles, so he sought a contract with a human to borrow his power. It turns out that this paper peacock is useless, but why so suddenly, and in general, Zikard was just joking. Apparently, this is the entrance to the lair of the Black Mudra. And this monster of the depths has placed a magical barrier here. Breaking such a spell will not be easy. The greatest sorceress destroyed the magical barrier with one movement. Who is she? So the chatty manuscript said that the entrance leads deep down, and it would take a long time to fly. Without understanding the structure, it will be very difficult to establish teleportation coordinates. Therefore, there is only one way out. Let the grimoire squeeze its cover. They will jump down without teleportation. Now take your claws off Zikard. He's still so young and hasn't had time to take over this damn world. Meanwhile, in the lands of Hebei, the sharp sounds of swords could be heard since the morning. In the training arena, the 4th prince once again defeated the 3rd-line imperial knight. That's it, Kian gives up. The kid has once again smashed the knight to smithereens. He's no longer even sure that the prince is a man. From now on, Kian and Rowan replace Captain Pierce for the young heir, but it is so humiliating to lose to a teenager. Riak has become noticeably stronger since returning from the Imperial Palace. This is due to the additional mana link. Even if the heir to the throne becomes stronger, he will not be able to destroy the Empress. Power is always greater than brute force. The young villain's mind was filled with the words of this vile woman every day. The 4th prince must gain so much power that no one will dare to offend the master again. And this means that in the end, the villain will have to take possession of the Emperor's crown, which is already a rebellion. Kian will pretend he didn't hear anything. The knight can rest easy. Riak doesn't ask for his help. But does His Highness really need to go that far? Although Kian doesn't mind, there is one commander there who needs to be moved. Riak already has a promising future as a great magician, probably the greatest. His path already guarantees him greatness. Unlike all princes, who have no choice but to risk their lives for the throne, the 4th prince wants to become the one who can protect his master, protect Milady Hart. This child dreams of something much more complex and deep than adults. Meanwhile, in the lair of the Black Mudra, a shrill, girlish scream was heard. Zikard is not tired of screaming. The thunder magic is activated. Apparently, this power is not enough, and the mistress has long had suicidal tendencies. The Mudras are only slightly inferior to dragons. Even the spells of the 7th circle may not work. Okay, what do you mean? Okay, the stalker is happy to become lunch. We'll have to take more serious measures. Why is this snake chasing the book? It's just pages, while that crazy one has a lot of meat. Did the grimoire really live for 1,000 years, only to meet its inglorious end in the stomach of a snake? Why is it so hot here? Who made the fire? Zikard opened his eyes with interest. Black Mudra was drowning in hot lava. What the hell? What the book just missed? Wait a minute. The spell that summons lava is dragon magic. Who the hell did Zikard mess with? So the abnormal owner of the grimoire has the 8th magic circle, a clever, small book. Let the paper counterparty find all 6 mana stones in the cave, it will be done. The sensor of the magic stones is activated, and here is the most terrible and wise grimoire shuffling along the floor in the fetid cave. Crawling on the ground will ruin the leather cover, although having such an unrealistically strong mistress is a personal victory for Zikard. I wish I could find these mana stones soon so I don't have to worry about the future of my students anymore. That same evening, the students were waiting for the sorceress. Riak, as always, suffered without her. And here is Raina. The 4th prince immediately blossomed, and the guys were just waiting for their mentor. Yeah, like every weekday evening. Something joyful happened, that's right. From now on, Raina will be able to provide her children with absolutely everything, just let them say so. Viscountess Hart returned just in time for dinner. The cook had done a great job today. Today's menu includes cheese cream soup with garlic croutons, fresh fruits and vegetables. Milady wants an extra 2nd course. Raina will be full with this. Then the young villain will also eat his fill of this, and Kia too, the girl, will also eat her fill of this soup. And what about that evil book that sang annoying songs in the hallway? She suggested that the children put Vetugenia on her knees. Ever since this notebook learned about the 8th circle of Raina, it has been constantly showering her with similar proposals. However, thanks to this book, the sorceress managed to find the mana stones. She has 5 out of 6. Now everyone will have a comfortable life. Thanks to the blood of the dragon, Raina will not age, so she will be idle and enjoy the whole 150 years. She sealed Mudra's lair so it would never be found again. Now she needs to turn the stones into money. But we can't spread rumors that the great Raina Heart is selling mana stones. She needs a middleman. The students don't want to go for a walk with their master tomorrow. Well, of course, the prince is always for it, and the girl must go with them. Raina just thought that Kia would be happy. From today on, she decided to teach the children every day. What's going on with her? The little girl spends all her free time with them anyway. The girl is overloading herself, not at all. Kia does it because she likes it. It really does make Kia really happy, though. The sorceress simply asked that if the girl was not overexerting herself, then let her do as she wanted. The young villain heard that since the student had business tomorrow, he and Riak would go alone. The fourth prince loves to spend time with his fairy, just the two of them. It is the happiest time. Perhaps the Viscountess will eat another portion of meat. The prince will also have meat, and Kia too. A silent sadness hung in the eyes of the little student again. Kia took a new book to the orphanage and settled down comfortably with it at a distance. Why is Kia sitting there alone? Let Mabel read too. Actually, she wanted to read in silence. The master said that taking care of the youngest was the most tiring thing in the world, and the girl was worthy of admiration. Let the girls come here and make themselves comfortable. Kia will read to them. If a girl takes care of the younger ones, she will be worthy of admiration. Mana stones are usually sold through the Mage Association, but mages of the 5th circle and above prefer other methods. In order not to leave traces in the magical accounting, for example, exclusive agencies for magicians. A cheerful little door. It serves as a cover. No, the owner just has no taste. Who would want to come here anyway? But the real Raina always came here. What can you do? You will have to trust the choice of the greatest sorceress, Vetugenia. Welcome, the magic agency is glad to welcome visitors. The lady is looking for something specific here. Yeah, a meeting with the owner. A pink carnation, a gentleman's top hat, and an old pumpkin. The clerk immediately perked up. After which he nodded approvingly. Of course, the magic agency has something like that. Visitors must follow an attendant inside to take a look. The man walked up to the bookcase and pulled out one of the books, making a clicking sound. What the hell? The wall opens, the master sees it. They need one like that in the castle too? Raina thought the same thing. A long passage has been created behind the bookcase, allowing visitors to go down. Well, of course, a dark basement behind a secret bookcase with a suspicious guy on top. That's how all horror movies begin. There are signs everywhere stating that outsiders are not allowed to enter. How long have they been walking? This tunnel even has an end. At the end of the passage, a light appeared, and finally, a strange young man greeted the visitors. This is the owner of the Daisy Salon, Dale Maverick, and what is that in his hand? Who did this guy dismember here? Let the master stand behind the fourth prince. That psycho gouged out someone's eye and is playing with it. Yes, it's just Mr. Maverick's eye, of course. It's a completely ordinary situation. Raina kicks her eyeballs on the grass every day. It seems that Mrs. Hart did not come to the magical agency alone. Enviable observation. They generally do not serve kittens, even such rare ones. Why does everyone call Ryaka a cat? But for such a phenomenal person, the Margaritka agency will make an exception. What did this guy say? Is he calling names or something? Viscountess Hart took with her a very influential patron. Without collecting information, the agency simply cannot survive. It's been a long time since my Lord Dale saw my Lady Hart. Yes, in fact, she sees him for the first time. So they get straight to the point. The girl took out a high-quality mana stone. The owner of the agency immediately got down to business, examining the goods from different angles. What is this strange guy doing? The master needs to evaluate the mana stone. And this is the eye of appraisal, the ability to determine the properties and value of objects. Maverick is known for his skill thanks to this eye. Uncle should at least wipe his eye first before inserting it. The stone is genuine. Where did you get it? But does it matter? Not at all. The agency will provide the history of the stone for the auction. It's part of their job. If Raina sold the mana stones through the Mage Association, the ministry would start digging to find their origin. And here you can sell goods without asking questions. Only 3 mana stones. Better to be on the safe side. Let Sir Maverick name the highest possible price. He will prepare the contract. But this is their first meeting, and Milady has no business with the owner of the agency. What? Only regular customers can give their password and entrust the work to the owner himself. People who have not carried out a single transaction are not even allowed to be here, but at least they were allowed to observe the assessment. Didn't visitors see the signs at the entrance saying no outsiders allowed? The owner of the magic salon snapped his fingers, and magical currents began to appear around the main villain. Then Raina intervened and cast a spell. The boy remained in the same place. A cold sweat ran down the face of the agency owner. Why was the child still here? It's all Lady Raina's fault. She would prefer that no magic be used on her student. However, a rule is a rule, and the fourth prince will wait for the master outside. The young villain puffed out his cheeks. What an impudent cyclops. Why is the gentleman so sad? Did the owner of the agency really throw him out of his office? Actually, the prince left on his own. And what kind of person is this guy? Mr. Maverick is quite good, even though he takes out his own eye, and it's still creepy. If Riak is so worried, he can take the crystal ball. Is Dale's eye really that scary? When the sorceress is in danger, the crystal ball will turn red. Maybe the young gentleman wants something warm, like cocoa. Riak is not a child. Sweets improve the mood. The main character of the novel stood on the threshold. Tieran immediately noticed the main villain. But then he turned away and asked with a serious expression if there was any oil for cleaning armor. Of course, the employee will bring it now, and now the two main opponents of the novella meet. Gloomy eyes, hair the color of deep night, marble skin. This kid is inhumanly handsome, apparently an aristocrat. And what a strange aura around this boy. Tieran can't take his eyes off him. This little guy looks like a cat waiting for his owner. Apparently his parents left him here. Some unknown boy came into the magic agency. Raina still hasn't returned. So the fourth prince will continue to guard his master's safety. This cat, that is, the boy, has a crystal ball in his hands. Why is he looking into it so intently? Tieran thought that since they were the same age, they could talk, but this kid was too creepy. It's best to stay away from him. Riak only reacts to Raina and doesn't make friends. The first victim was Kia. Then they will continue on these terms. The owner is ready to sign the contract. During the Viscountess's absence, Milady managed to have a child, and he is very dear to her. This guy has an extra eye. This news is just so stunning. Mr. Maverick apologizes. He is always overly curious. That is always a problem. This contract takes into account all the conditions. The rest of the details remain the same. The first document is a confidentiality agreement for the request. The second is a contract for the sale of a batch of magic stones. Both are bound by Sir Dale's oath. Their reliability is beyond doubt, and it seems that no attempt has been made to deceive her. However, Raina loves to bargain, which means the commission is 20%. Let them make it 10. But then how can the magic agency Liv Maverick deliberately inflated the percentage? Helping with the search for stones is one thing, but sitting back and planning to live on the profit for 3 generations is stealing. Maverick knows what kind of stones these are, 7%, but my lady will live just fine with 10%, and the agency is doing badly, 5%, well, at least 9% of the profit. In this case, the sorceress will easily find another agency for a smaller percentage of the commission. 5%, she's such a scoundrel. A client who will provide 7 years of profit can in no way be called a scoundrel. Dale hoped that Raina was a simpleton and would tell him to handle the paperwork himself. She didn't happen to study finance in Hebei. It was probably Zcard who let it slip. The owner was upset that he didn't rip off more, let him make corrections, or Raina will go. The bargaining is over, so be it. The sorceress will not become Dale's favorite client. The girl can live with this. She still has one request. Mr. Maverick listens attentively. The sorceress put a bottle in front of him. Could Sir Dale please pass this file to his lordship? Raina will prepare a separate contract for this antidote. Exactly. Milady Hart is now in disfavor with the Empress, but how can such an insignificant person get into the palace? Has Mr. Maverick become so engrossed in coloring his agency that he has forgotten his true identity? Mr. Dale Maverick is a notorious aristocrat and a marquis at the ruler's court. This will cost the young lady dearly. Let the greedy director do his job already. They will sort this out. Only a great sorceress could treat the Marquis like that. The Emperor told her so too. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued to study the main villain. Tieran was hesitant because of the agency's inadequate appearance, but he was able to find everything he needed here. But this guy has been sitting like this motionless for 40 minutes already. He's a monk or something. The kid doesn't even blink. Is this crystal ball really that important to him? Here, the main character could not resist, and approached the young villain. This ball is so important to him. However, the fourth prince did not answer his interlocutor and returned to his mission. Tieran was immediately drawn to the gaze of the gloomy eyes. The color of the eyes was different, but the look itself was so familiar to him. Somewhere the boy had already seen such eyes. Exactly, that same sorceress who told him to survive. Apparently all magicians study the same aura, which is why, looking at this child, that woman came to mind. The protagonist took a deep breath and returned to the depths of his memory. After escaping from slave traders with the help of a mysterious sorceress, the crown prince was starving. After wandering around the capital of Vetugenia for a short time, Tieran became a mercenary in order to survive. Then the young protagonist fought for his right to life, risking himself every day. In one of the refugee camps, the only surviving descendant of the ruler of the fallen empire was recognized. Tieran is the last prince of the burnt empire. They are also survivors of Tuntera, and they need a leader. That day, the prince realized that people who lost their homes suffered much more than he imagined. As the last member of the imperial line, Tieran must reclaim his empire of Tunther. However, the empire of Vetugenia has the most dangerous witch on the entire continent. Raina, her power has no equal. But the surviving heir of the empire will do everything to kill these sorcerers and reclaim his state. But first, the main character needs to find people to create an army. There are plenty of wandering talents on the continent that can be called upon for help. Those people who did not surrender to the Vetugenian Empire to the end will share the determination of their prince. During this time, another important goal appeared in Tieran's soul. If the young heir of Tuntera manages to realize his plans, he will be able to look into the eyes of that girl with pride. The protagonist's cheeks immediately turned red. I wonder what she will look like when she grows up. And it would also be good to meet that strange sorceress again and find out where she knows everything from. This could be very important, since the prince does not know what goals that woman was pursuing. By the way, that boy knows how to handle a crystal ball, which means he is a magician, they already found out. Maybe all the magicians know each other who gave this magical thing to the kid. The boy is a magician. His parents are probably magicians too, with whom he came here. The thing is that the main character is looking for one specific magician, or more precisely, one witch. What's notable is that the woman always speaks a little and strangely, and she also has lavender hair. At this point, the warehouse door clicked, and the one-sided conversation between the novel's two key characters was cut short. The man apologizes for the wait. The oil is a little old, it's not Raina, it's not another mage, and why is no one happy to see the worker? This oil is also suitable for a boy. How much from him? Half of the indicated price. In that case, Raina leaves it to Mr. Maverick. Let Milady Hart not even worry, he will do his best. While the owner of the agency was busy with Mrs. Raina, a young client came into their shop. He was looking for oil, and the man sold it to him. That is, this is the most ordinary customer of the shop, and not a generous and ignorant client of the agency. Well, yes. Apparently, the sign needs some more work. It's not presentable enough, it would be better to burn it down. The kid waited a long time for the sorceress. No, Riak didn't even notice how time flew by and why were his eyes red. Just allergic to dust, Raina did all her chores exactly like that, and now they are ridiculously rich. And what was the young villain doing in the shop while his mentor was away? Well, Riak was helping one client. Wow, usually her boy doesn't communicate with anyone at all. He even ignored Kia when she wanted to be friends with him. The fourth prince doesn't remember exactly, but this client was a boy his age and pleasant-looking, with a sword on his belt. The look that requires explanation is activated. Well, yes, while Milady Hart was away, the young gentleman was helping the worker here with the shop. Oh no, the girl missed such an important step in her boy's life. She should have been there for him at such a moment. How can she rewind? Her baby had grown so much he was serving customers for the first time, replacing a salesperson in the real world. Consulting in a clothing store was her first job. Riak took after her completely. What a touching event. Raina is so proud of her boy. It needs to be celebrated. The owner of the agency for magicians will be glad to work with Viscountess Hart again. Let him come here more often with his young student. Now that Hebe's financial situation is obscenely rich, one can safely enjoy life in a novel. The main character has already corrected her boy's tragic childhood, enslaved the damn manuscript, depriving it of the opportunity to make a villain out of Riak. Now all that's left to do is wait and see if the original storyline unfolds as intended. Night fell, and the great sorceress went to follow the main character of the novel. This box needs to be put here. Help is needed here. So far, the original plot is going smoothly. The charming prince smiled broadly at his senior comrades. He was already rushing to their aid. The young heir of the fallen empire rushed forward and did not notice the stone in front of him. Not that. The The sorceress reflexively prevented the child from falling, using her magic, those damn instincts. Better to teleport away before anyone notices Raina's interference. Tieran is already doing a pretty good job here. A magical mark lit up on the tree branch, and the witch instantly disappeared. It was almost a spectacular exit for the young leader. His lordship had better watch his step. He still has this world to conquer. And what happened? The boy absolutely had to fall and hit the ground. However, this did not happen. His body seemed to rise, so Tieran was not harmed. It's as if someone intervened and protected him. His Highness had better come here and take a look. Tuntera's heir will be here soon. It must have just seemed that way to the boy. It was hard to see in the dark, and he was in such a hurry. Meanwhile, the main residence of the ducal house of Aspera. The young protagonist was still sleeping peacefully in her chambers. What a relief. Little Princess Viven is also fine, but there is still a scented bag with a sleeping effect lying here. What is her guardian thinking? Did the girl sleep like that in the original story? Raina can't interfere directly. It will affect the storyline. Is it really possible that the greatest sorceress can only watch events unfold again? Here the main character's eyes opened. The princess blinked and stared at the sorceress, the stranger, the butterfly fairy. This is bad. This is very, very bad. It can put the princess to sleep before her consciousness is fully awakened. The sorceress has lost her vigilance and can now destroy what she has been so diligently building all this time. But the main character left Raina with no choice at all. She had to cast a spell on young Viven. The sorceress is forced to erase the princess's memory. She did not want this because there could be side effects. Here the girl grabbed Raina by the hand. What the hell? What did the princess think up? It won't hurt her, the sorceress promises. It's deep night outside the princess's window. The stranger's hair is the color of blooming lavender, which means she is a butterfly fairy. Well, Raina touched something wrong in her head. Viven read in one book that butterfly fairies go around everyone while people are sleeping, and besides, if the stranger had not been a fairy, how would she have gotten here? An enviable deduction. The princess caught a fairy butterfly, but it's better than being a stalker. Viven had to take a good look at the butterfly fairy when footsteps were heard in the corridor of the residence. The footsteps were approaching the main character's bedroom. Oh no, Viven was noticeably scared. An interesting reaction. The princess is right, isn't she? It's better to play along with this girl's fantasies, otherwise she'll raise unnecessary noise. Of course, the little rascal who doesn't sleep at night is right, but here their conversation can be overheard. Therefore, the butterfly fairy invites her little companion to go for a night walk. It's crazy. A girl sneaks into a child's room at night and kidnaps him through a window. In her world, she would already be wearing an orange uniform for that. It's so beautiful here at night, but this meeting should remain a little secret between the girls. Of course, the princess knows that if adults catch the fairy butterfly, her wings will fall off, and what kind of fashion for sadism has writers got up to? The butterfly fairy wanted to ask the young princess something. Does Viven have any problems with sleep? The fruit peel by the girl's bed is a sleeping pill. What a beautiful butterfly. Either Viven has a 3-second attention span or she's avoiding answers. The princess herself said that the butterfly fairy visits every house every day under cover of night. So if something bothers the girl, let her leave a letter for the fairy, and Raina will check it at night. It seems like everything should be fine here. The main character looks healthy and even happy. But something in the sorceress's soul was not calm, and this feeling did not leave her from their first meeting. Well, it's getting chilly in the garden, they should go back to avoid getting sick, but they just came. The girl instantly teleported the main character to her bedroom. Viven immediately became upset. Their meeting and walk were so fast, and the girl will meet the butterfly fairy again someday. They will definitely meet, and now let the princess run to bed and cover herself with a blanket, and let the butterfly fairy take care of herself. A few moments later, the great sorceress Vetugenia disappeared into the magical flow. The main character of the novel sighed heavily and returned her gaze to the aromatic bag of fruit. The stepmother brought this bag and told the princess not to touch it. The aroma of tree bark is good for health. This wonderful scent will bring Viven peace and tranquility. This is a blatant lie. Scary and gloomy images began to appear in the little heroine's mind, and she was again consumed by sticky fear. In fact, the little girl really wanted to tell the butterfly fairy everything, to share what Viven could not tell anyone. The main character's eyes are filled with true horror. The girl doesn't think that the butterfly fairy will believe her. But she still wants to tell about everything, and only one word escaped from the princess's hoarse throat, Mom. 5 years ago, a fateful event occurred in the Duchy of Aspera. the head of the duchy, brought this vile woman to the family estate, Viven immediately felt threatened by her. The little girl involuntarily hid behind her father, but he told her to greet her new stepmother. Then the princess said her name. Viven Aspera, what a sweet child. There was only poison in that rotten woman's words and not a drop of truth. However, the main character's vigilance quickly became dull. Her stepmother systematically appeased her with false kindness and care. Viven believed that all her days in the future would be filled with happiness, but the spider's poison in the butterfly's body does not work immediately. So days turned to nights, the deadly spider diligently weaving its webs. Servants held candles. Members of the Aspera clan recited a prayer in the main hall of the residence. This year is truly special. As everyone here knows, tomorrow there will be a grand celebration in honor of Saint Malena's Day. All the locals will come out into the streets to rejoice and celebrate the great holiday together. This year's celebration will be special for the House of Aspera, as the Duke's new wife, Simone, will be joining them, so the head asks everyone to show her due respect. At the end of today's prayer, the head of the duchy asks the gods to bestow blessings on them and protect them from sins, and good dreams to all. The little princess's maid came up and offered to walk the girl to her bedroom. The maid took the girl to her private chambers, but Viven began to eavesdrop on the conversation between her father and her new stepmother. The new lady of the Aspera house was going to check the custom fabrics, and isn't it too late for that now? For Simone, it's not at all a burden. Well, in that case, the head of the duchy should go to bed and let Simone not stay up too long. As soon as Vivien's father was out of sight, her stepmother went in the other direction, which worried the princess. "Isn't the fabric closet in that wing?" The nanny nodded. "It's time for the little lady to go to bed." But Simone said she would go to the pantry. What a curious little lady. Her stepmother apparently had other things to do. The nanny never ceases to be touched when she looks at the little girl. Simone has not been here long, but such hard work commands respect. The young Mrs. New stepmother is very knowledgeable about household affairs and is very kind to all the servants. Simone doesn't even punish them for their mistakes, and then Hiran and Messi disappeared without a trace. How irresponsible of them. Apparently, these two ran away together in another house. The gentleman would have raised a fuss, but Simone immediately closed the matter, so cordial of her. The corridor of the east wing led to only one room, which meant the stepmother could only go there. Viven had always been observant and had long noticed that Simone went away somewhere every night. Today, the girl drank too much water at night, and here comes her stepmother. She is again going somewhere under the cover of night. But Simone's bedroom is on the other side, as is the pantry, so where does the stepmother go stealthily at such an hour? After the woman was convinced of her privacy, she immediately hurried to the secret room. And here again is the eastern corridor and the mysterious room locked from prying eyes. Why does Simone need to go there? What is hidden behind those doors, since that night the stepmother continued to go there? Apparently, only Viven noticed this secret. A strange feeling of detachment kept her from asking direct questions. This was until one fateful night. Now Simone became the girl's stepmother, which meant her questions would not disrupt their relationship, so Viven thought. After all, everyone says that shared secrets bring people together, and Viven wants to become closer with her new mother. Besides, tomorrow is such a bright and wonderful holiday. Everything should be fine. With this thought, the girl fell asleep. The day will be very busy. They need to finish their business first, and in the evening, they will meet for a festive dinner. Simone believes that her husband is very tired from his duties. On this day, he should not overexert himself. By the way, where did Simone disappear to last night? The Duke looked for her for a long time and didn't find her, which means her father noticed too. Here, the eyes of the poisonous stepmother flashed with menace, the corners of her mouth stretched into a grin, and a painful groan was heard. The face of the head of the duchy immediately turned pale, and a sharp, cutting pain pierced his head. The Duke immediately grabbed his head and knocked the cup over onto the floor. This pain, the Duke roared furiously. The main character immediately ran to her father. "What's wrong with Daddy? We need to call a doctor. It's nothing serious." "It's just another migraine attack due to fatigue. Nothing serious. It doesn't look like anything." "My husband is definitely fine. He looks very unwell. His speech is slurred. His coordination is impaired. Lately, the Duke has been suffering from such attacks often. He should see a doctor. Simone is so caring, it's just a trifle." How lucky the head of the duchy was with his wife. Viven then felt an unpleasant prick that served as a warning to her. However, none of the adults noticed anything, so the girl did not attach any importance to it. Viven wanted to ask something. No. Whenever her father asked her stepmother about her nighttime adventures, she was tormented by attacks of pain, and Simone simply did not answer. The father forgot about his questions, so the princess did not ask him again. The city celebrated the day. Locals brought the streets to life. Decorations and treats were everywhere. The festive fair attracted curious passers-by with its bright colors and intricate trinkets. The whole family had a great time at the celebration, and night fell. As soon as the moon came into the sky, the main character left her bedroom and went to fetch her stepmother. The girl had to find out what exactly this woman was doing. Viven was becoming more and more worried. There were many boxes in the closed room. Why were they there, and what was inside? And why is the door to this room always locked with a key? This was never accepted in the residence of the Duchy of Asper. As soon as the main character managed to open the lid of one of the boxes, her body was pierced by animal fear. Inside were someone's organs, eyeballs, severed limbs. What is this? The frightened child immediately closed the lid of the box. Then the girl heard hoarse groans. There was someone there. Gathering her last courage into a fist, the little girl went into the darkness. Having pushed aside several boxes, Viven reached the source of the sounds and froze from a horror unimaginable to the child's mind. Their poor butler was enveloped and devoured by some demonic creature, while the stepmother watched. Why is the heiress wandering around here alone? The city is in the middle of a holiday, and she is here in a dark room. The main character's pupils trembled. Her consciousness became clouded. Her vision became blurry. Her thoughts became confused. And again the girl saw that her stepmother meant that Viven did not understand anything at all. A huge demonic spawn tore the Asper family's loyal butler apart right before Vivien's eyes. The stepmother, with a smile on her face, wiped the still warm splashes of blood from the girl's face. Viven didn't see anything new today, so she has nothing to be afraid of. Let her go to bed and not tell anyone about it. It's all just a nightmare. The girl is just sleeping, and when she wakes up, everything will be forgotten. From that very night, the life of the main character changed forever. It became dark and frightening. Since that night, Vivien's father has also changed. How the faithful butler dared to betray the Duke and run away. Eden even stole his master's wealth. This is the price of trust. The Duke became irritable and aggressive due to constant headaches. The main character's father lost trust in the service staff and erected an impenetrable wall around himself. Why is the heiress here? Has Viven already done her homework? It is not proper for a young lady to be wandering around doing nothing. But the next lesson is in a couple of minutes. My daughter should be getting ready and reviewing her lessons, not hanging around here. The head of the duchy lived his entire life in foolish zeal, and all this for the sake of his daughter. The little girl couldn't hold back her tears. She realized that her daddy was angry because of the butler. The nanny grabbed the child and began to protect him, but the Duke didn't want to listen to anything, so they all went away from here. The father forced his daughter to study without rest piano, history, dancing, etiquette, foreign languages. It won't be enough for marriage anyway. No one from the noble nobility will marry Viven. A happy stepmother walked past the crying child. Why does the smile never leave the face of this rotten woman? The stepmother cast a smug glance at the girl, which felt like a poisonous and paralyzing spider bite. The little lady is already feeling unwell. She must take care of herself. Only the nanny is left with the heiress. The main character spent every night in tears. Everything collapsed. Her beloved daddy changed so much. The girl's body is already exhausted from constant stress, but the Duke still does not stop. The stepmother is definitely a vile witch who has bewitched Vivien's father. He is completely under her control. But if the girl tells anyone about this, she will die in terrible agony like their butler. Although the nanny is on the side of the main character, she is unable to change anything, and the others do not notice anything. There are no adults in Vivien's family estate that the girl could turn to for help. And now the girl was visited by a fairy, a butterfly. She knows how to cast spells and is not afraid of people. In the consciousness of the main character, the poisonous voice of her stepmother was heard. Why is Viven not sleeping again? She should be sleeping. The girl clutched the purple flower tightly in her hand. This was just an attempt to intimidate Viven. The main character wants more than anything to escape from this nightmare, but it seems she can't. As if this spider had long ago poisoned her with venom and paralyzed her consciousness, Viven felt as if she was thinking clearly and making decisions on her own. But the voice of this vile woman does not stop in her head. Viven could not even turn to the fairy. What if she is a friend of her stepmother? Or the butterfly fairy may simply not believe the little girl, just like other adults. Words sent by fear are much more powerful than any magic. Vivian became addicted to her terror. And why has the witch been trying so hard to put the main character to sleep lately? The girl had long since had enough of the fruit peels. They no longer had the same effect on her. The girl Vivian keeps seeing in her dreams might be the reason. A warm memory of Tieran appeared in the girl's mind when they became adults. They should see each other. The main character misses him so much. I wish Tieran would wait until this nightmare ends and take her away. Meanwhile, the sorceress serenely hummed the latest top-charting singles that she remembered from her world. She was insanely beautiful, and the whole world told her that she was the happiest. With such a state, Raina could sing songs all day long. Viscountess Hart seems to be in a great mood today. She has been singing all morning, and she has an excuse for it. After the last walk, the lady smiles endlessly. She now even goes on her unloved patrols with joy. The sorceress simply conquered the world of finance in this world, and now she is a fabulously rich, beautiful, and young aristocrat. The girl also worked hard on the storyline for her beloved boy. All the main and key characters develop in accordance with the intended plotline of the novel. Although there is one significant but here, the little main character is definitely hiding something. What if this is connected to that carriage accident from Vivian's childhood? If this is really the case, then it will be simply impossible to interfere. And even the damn ink snob knows nothing about the Asper family. How annoying. From the outside, children often seem happy and joyful, but they always hide something from adults, and it is not always something harmless. But this is the role of an adult. You need to constantly monitor children and look deeper. You need to write a parenting manual. At the moment, the great sorceress cannot inform the authorities that she suspects child abuse. So Raina will stick to what she can control. Now her little villain has no reason to become a tyrant. As long as this continues, it will be easy to provide a happy ending for the young villain. So go ahead, original plot. And again, this evil laughter of an unrecognized genius. Maybe Milady Rain should go to the hot springs for a couple of days. 8 happy years passed in the lands of Hebei. The cozy village was still the same. A certain guest arrived at the domain of the greatest sorceress, and a luxurious carriage stopped at the entrance. Curious children immediately surrounded the expensive carriage and began to look inside to see who this uncle was. Dale Maverick, head of the magic agency. Yeah, Hebei is still the same rural backwater and hole. However, such an unchanging nature as Raina Hart is very suitable for such a quiet and unchanging place. Who would have thought? Dale has always been after success and pleasure, and now he's stomping through the village dirt. 8 years ago, Marquis Maverick presented a new lot at auction, a high-quality mana stone that only appears once every century on the continent. Marquis Maverick has twisted his other eye, or is he treating the auction guests as blind? What's the matter? The mana stone is missing. Even trusted partners can betray. The auctioneer has fled, taking all the lots with him. Dale Maverick was then in dark times, his magical agency already in decline. Where is Raina's mana stone? Well, the auctioneer stole it and ran away. Raina's mana stone, auctioneer. This stupid businessman owes the sorceress full compensation for its cost. Marquis Maverick is rich, but the head of the Daisy Agency is not. The ironclad rule of the Mavericks is never to spend the family fortune on unprofitable whims. Dale will pay with himself. This damn old man will soon start selling what he stole from the Marquis, and then Dale will smear him on the asphalt. And for 8 years now, Marquis Maverick has been the right hand of the greatest sorceress Hart. How tired I am of this job. Mrs. Raina is in her office. She is already waiting for Mr. Maverick. Yeah, the burnt-out Marquis has returned to his insatiable job. What's on the agenda today? The sorceress settled down with a book next to the 20-year-old villain. Riak's beauty surpassed all human beauty. And here is Mr. Dale. His face today not so twisted with self-flagellation as it was yesterday. What a cute picture. Like from a fairy tale, Dale won't even ask anything. What is Dale staring at? Raina has given her villain a happy ending and can retire.